Hello everybody, welcome into our latest live video. And today, what's today? It's the 31st of December and the year is 2024. We're on the final day of the year. Sorry, I was a little distracted here trying to, oh, that's not gonna work. I'm trying to multi-stream to a couple other platforms and I'm just trying to figure it out here as we start looking forward to some changes coming in 2025, looking past on 2024 and what we've done this year as far as video content and variety and where we're going. And of course, what your thoughts are throughout the year. What are some of your favorite videos or some of your least favorite or products or product categories that you've been most coveting or avoiding? We'd love to hear your feedback on it. I do hope you're all having a good New Year's Eve. For some of you, it may already be past the midnight hour. You might already be in 2025 as we sometimes time travel with these videos live around the world in different time zones. I want to give a shout out very quickly to our friend Buster, who has been as generous as ever throughout 2024 and really helped us out a lot. We had a lot of struggles. We'll talk a little bit about that with the move to the new studio, which was unexpected. And I mean, I knew it could come at any time, but I thought it was going to be around, I thought it would happen around this time of the year, maybe December, January. But regardless, it is what it is. And with the thanks of folks like Buster, Frankie B, of course, our friend Paul Gray, Charlie Purdy, there's so many of you out there, Oystein, that have been so generous to us that we were able to do this without having to finance it on a credit card and pay endless interest, quite frankly. So that really helped us out a lot. And then if that wasn't enough, we got a package the other day from our friend Buster. And Buster joins us from Edinburgh in Scotland. And we're definitely going to go out to the UK. And we definitely want to visit and see Buster in person, as well as visit Edinburgh and Glasgow. And there's also Ireland, our friend Mark Gaines and Andy Kane out there in different areas of Ireland and many others, by the way. And of course, England itself. And while I'm not aware of any viewers in Wales, I absolutely want to visit Wales. And I'm hoping to do that at some point in 2025, maybe in the summer, if all goes well and nothing unexpected occurs that would interfere with that. It's long overdue. But this package that arrived in the mail the other day, well, I don't have to tell you who it's from, right? It's just show you what it is. Here's the thing you need to know about our friend Peter Laycock in the chat room. He is paying attention. Let me just put it to you that way. The thoughtfulness that this man has is a little bit scary, and I'll explain why in a minute. So first, we have this amazing picture book of, you know, I've never been to Edinburgh, I've never been to Scotland, and if he's enticing me to want to go, well, this is working, because this looks absolutely amazing. And a little, what they call a rough guide to Edinburgh, which is like a pocket guide with a little map and everything in there, and a little history about the city and areas of the city. And that's, again, you know, look, in a lot of ways you can just send a link, you know what I mean? But this is kind of an old school sort of have it in your hands, pocket size, stick it in your pocket. And yeah, it's really, really thoughtful for him to send this so we can learn more about where he's from and the history, because we don't know anything really about it. And then what he did for Mara just kind of blew my mind, because, you know, I was like, how would he know to do that? But he sent for Mara this package here, which is a black rose. So when I saw this, you know, I'm telling Mara, there's no way. How would he know that that was... Mara and I have seen this on Amazon, and I've jokingly talked about getting it for her, and she loves black roses. And I'm like, did you guys talk? Did you have a conversation with him and said, oh, I really like this? She goes, no, but, you know, she says, it's not that hard to figure out. I go, well, to me it is. I'm not looking at the details in the way, or maybe I don't listen to the depth that Peter listens, because he couldn't have picked a more perfect thing. This has got Mara's personality and likes all over it. That is something that she absolutely adores, and I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, how would he know? How would he know that you were going to like that? So anyway, I just thought that was really nice, and you know, what a very nice Christmas gift. And personally, I don't expect anything. He's been generous, more than generous, but that freaked me out a little bit. I was like, wait a minute, how does he know that? So that was really super nice. Thank you so much, Buster, from both of us, as always. You're amazing. You continue to be amazing. So let me move on. Today, let's see, Eddie Casanova says hello from Philadelphia. Welcome in, Eddie. Everest, Martin Postema, all saying hello. There's John Rogers, Frankie B with a $4 super chat. Hey, Frankie, thank you again for all your support throughout 2024. David Graham, Mark Gaines, and Dustin Fuller joining us here in the chat room. I also see Scott, Darren Gilholm, Thomas MacT, Jonathan, Tony's RC, Kurt Schlegel, Dazzle, all saying hello in the chat. Welcome in. There's Buster with a 10-pound super chat. Says, good evening, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 8.8 degrees Celsius. Buster says, Edinburgh's Hogmanay celebrations have been canceled due to rain and high winds. Am I pronouncing that right? I guess that's the New Year celebration. Not a word I'm familiar with. What was the other word? Mitch was asking me about something called Dobbs kit. What? Dops, D-O-P-P-S, Dops kit. Because we're going to take a little vacation, a little road trip here. And the heck's a Dops kit? Well, I guess that's a bathroom travel bag. I guess everybody in the world knows that but me. I mean, a toiletry bag? Why don't you fancy words? 57 years old. I never heard the word Dops kit until last night. See? You're never too old to learn something new. But then I also don't shop at Prada. So at Walmart, it's a toilet bag. Anyway, I find that very amusing. There's Paul Connolly joining us from Australia. That's where Paul's from. He's from Australia. I always confuse Paul Connolly with Australia and Ireland for some reason. I'll get it. I'll get it. You just might have to keep reminding me, Paul. It'll sink in. And thank you so much for hanging out with us. There's a card. Mats Olof joining us from Sweden. And Mortant 1210, also a very generous contribution from Mortant yesterday. Thank you again for that. Dan Nilsson joining us from the Netherlands says hello. And yeah, welcome in, guys. So essentially, what we're talking about today is, you know, I don't want to start any new projects. We're going to start the first week of 2025 taking a break. All right, but when we come back from that break, it'll be about a week-long break where there's not going to be any new content. We might republish some older content that new viewers, new to the channel, have never seen. If you're wondering why. Or maybe I will. I don't know. It depends how busy I get. If I have some time in the hotel, I'll fire something up. And if not, I don't want you to worry about me. It's just we haven't had a break in over 2 years. More than just a simple day trip. We've never had more than that in the last 2 years, 2.5 years. So getting a little bit crazy trapped in this place, and we need to get out. So with that, we're going to take a little, get in the car and just take a little road trip. And I'll tell you more about it when we get back, if there's anything to tell. And hopefully come back refreshed and renewed and ready to start the new year. So starting off in 2025, there's going to be, I predict, I'm not 100% certain, but I think there's going to be some changes to the content of the channel. When I left Studio B, I was pretty certain, based on how difficult 2024 got financially with YouTube sponsorships essentially giving you next to nothing, that the PC builds would likely be far more infrequent because of how expensive they are. Little did I know that there were many viewers who were very generous supporters with Amazon gift cards, that we were able to build as many computers as we've done. You wouldn't even have known anything had changed. But that leads us to another problem, is how we get rid of them, how we We build them, we make the content, we introduce these new components. We're not in the pocket of any corporation, which means we generally have to buy everything we do here. And if I can't sell it locally, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to ship it. There's too much damage, and the cost of shipping defeats the purpose. And then when they sell, even if they sell for less than I paid for them, that money can go back into the channel for another project, and around the wheel goes. Even if we could build new machines next year at this pace, we have nowhere left to put them. So anytime a new chip or a new motherboard comes out, we'll find a way to make a review of that. But when it comes to just building for the sake of building, unless something changes between now and then and we have either a local person buying these machines, or we end up with a storage facility, we can store them. We just don't have any room now. So we went from not having to budget, now we've got the machines and we don't have buyers for them. A lot of you that watch us in other countries and on the other side of the United States, and it just defeats the point of shipping it. It's very expensive to ship. It's more expensive now than I've ever paid in my life. Packages are taking longer, and packages are also more likely going to arrive with damage than they ever have before. So I want to maintain a quality and support that I can only do locally. And you guys can save a lot of money by simply ordering your parts online, quite frankly, or ordering pre-builds online where they get shipping for free. You know, Amazon can ship me a case for 70 bucks, a $70 case. That would cost me $70 if I shipped that $70 case to you. Just for me to break even, plus the sales tax, I'd have to make $150. And you're going, why wouldn't you just order it from Amazon for half that price and get it within 2 days versus waiting all this time, have it arrive with damage and have no support? There'd be no return unless you wanted to pay the $70 to ship it back. You see how that doesn't make any sense? And then the minute you start shipping to other countries, well, then you deal with tariffs and import fees, which can be quite pricey. So with that reasoning, you know, something that's much smaller, maybe, but the big tower computers, it just doesn't make any sense anymore. So we'll see how that goes in 2025. But here's what I'm thinking. We had a heck of a year with mini PCs. I mean, I don't think we ever saw mini PCs more so in the variety and just the amount of quantity that we saw in 2024. I don't know that it's going to maintain that pace. It's very expensive for the manufacturers to develop the units so quickly. Miniswarm in particular introduced so many new models. Other companies like B-Link and Ace Magic quieted down quite a bit with only a handful of new models. And I feel like going forward, we're going to see less and less of that. Not that I'm opposed to it, it just looks like the trend is shifting into, I think 2024, they were trying to figure out what's sticking. Does this design or does this configuration at this price, you know, is that more successful for us? Or is it this? Is it gaming? Is it this price point? How do we hit certain price points with certain cuts in the product that still ends up selling a lot of units? There's an investment there, right? You're going to have products that just don't do well. And you say, okay, well, now we know. In the meantime, we're still reviewing everything, right? They're sending us units after units, and we can't thank Miniswarm enough for their support in 2024 and offering us that opportunity to review these new units. But there's been so many, it's really hard for me to remember each individual unit outside of the ones that were really appealing to me as an individual. But none of the units were bad or something I wouldn't recommend to the right customer looking for that budget and that performance. And the same could be true for many of the other manufacturers that we've worked with this year, or that we just flat out bought. You know, some of the mini PCs we bought for Miniswarm. And if we're buying it, it means we're really interested in it, right? If we're sent it, it means we think we're going to like it. But if we know we're not going to like it, but we have a very strong sense we're not going to like it, we politely decline the offer, because I don't want to make that kind of video intentionally. You know, I want to have the best of intentions to say, wow, this product looks really exciting. If it doesn't, and I don't seem interested, I'm already going into the video with a bad attitude. Yeah, I don't want to make videos like that. So there's been a number of offers that we've had throughout 2024 that we've turned down. And, you know, all those names and companies will remain anonymous. We certainly appreciate them thinking of us regardless if it's not a good fit. So coming up in 2024, there'll be really nothing new in Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi 8 standard, I don't think, is due out for another year, maybe 2 years. And all it does is stabilize Windows 7. Wi-Fi 7. So it's not a big, basically there's, the Wi-Fi 7 that came out was more or less not really ratified. It hadn't had all the I's dotted and T's crossed when we first got the TP-Link Wi-Fi 7 router. It was still pretty early. It was a year later that Wi-Fi 7 officially got all the I's dotted and T's crossed. And we started to see a lot more Wi-Fi 7 routers in 2024. That's the standard from this point forward. When Wi-Fi 8 comes out, all it's doing is making the connection more stable, which I don't have a stability problem with it, but apparently that's all they got in Wi-Fi 8, is to just take Wi-Fi 7 and sort of put a support structure around it a little bit so the connections are stable, whatever that means. I don't understand why anybody would want to upgrade to that unless you're in a particular environment where your Wi-Fi 7 is just still not enough. It's being intermittent in performance. I've not experienced that, but I guess it's a thing. Otherwise, why would there be a Wi-Fi 8? So I don't think there's going to be anything new in regards to Wi-Fi throughout all of 2024 and potentially all of 2025. Now, as a reminder, the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, it's always around the first week of January, and I think this year is no different. I'm not going. I don't like to go. It's very crowded, and a lot of the items and technology that I would cover is already being covered by multiple news media and YouTube content creators tenfold. If there's nothing unique I can show you, there's no sense in me going. It's already going to be done, and not only by one person, but by several. There's going to be a few products every year that you're going to see on the national news, along with countless YouTube content creators, all covering the same thing over and over and over. And then every once in a while, there'll be a content creator that maybe goes and looks at the smaller manufacturers. There's another side of CES where it's kind of the cheap stuff. And it's always fun when they do that, because it's a lot of it's just it's very inexpensive stuff. Cheaper booth space, companies you never heard of. Some of the signage and packaging is still in a foreign language. Some of it's not even in English. But sometimes there's little gems in there, right? And you got to dig through it. So I'll be looking forward to looking for that content. If I see anything exciting, I'll share it with you. But as I mentioned, it's really well saturated. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. It's very difficult to get food there, to get a taxi, to get moved around, to get a hotel room. There's over 100,000 people. Yeah, I'd rather not. But that being said, that'll be happening while we're away anyway. So even if I wanted to, couldn't go. All right, so I'll come back with some news on that. But we know with the trend of mini PCs kind of, I think it's reaching a plateau. And it's really going to be about isolating manufacturing down to the units that are going to sell the best and reducing, like, for example, the catalog of product that Miniswarm has. I suspect, and I don't have any official word on this, but I suspect they're going to likely reduce that inventory of that catalog, the variety, because it's too much money, in my experience, to maintain that many different products and all the support. Certainly, if you've got 25 products that all are mini PCs, you probably really only sell half of them more than the other half, and it may not make sense to carry those other half. We'll still see some innovations with new chips and new designs, make no doubt about that. But I don't think we're going to see it as big as we saw it. And I could be wrong. Let me be very clear. These are projections, and I really don't know what's going to happen. There'll be new routers out. Okay, the manufacturers will still come out with new routers, but they're not going to come out with a new Wi-Fi tech. It's still Wi-Fi 7. Regardless of how they package it, it'll still be Wi-Fi 7. So with that, I don't see anything in 2024 in that regard that's going to be innovative. It's just a repackaging of what we already have, maybe with some added ports, or the ports will be 10 gig instead of 2.5, whatever. Little things like that. And again, this is just projection and speculation. What else can I tell you? As we get into 2025, I expect the content will start to slowly shift. Always about tech, always about computers. And I can't tell you what it's going to shift to, but it's not going to be a sharp turn. It's not like Monday we do a PC build and then Tuesday we do something we've never done before and then continue on that path indefinitely. That's like a hard turn. I don't do that. I like to make a gentle ease into it. You don't even realize it. Like, oh, you know, it's been a while since he's built a PC. It's more natural. And they're again, not to say there's not going to be other PC builds in the future. It just, I'm hoping, because I don't have anywhere to put anything, I'm hoping it won't be as many. I enjoy doing it. I really love to do it. And if I can resolve that with a local buyer who wants to buy the stuff so I can reinvest back into the channel, well, that's our barrier at this point. Because I don't have a solution for that and I have no plans on how to get a solution for that, the only thing I know is to slow that process down a bit so I can get ahead of it. With regards to then, if there's fewer PC builds, fewer mini PCs to review, and no changes in Wi-Fi routers, what's left? Well, we still have a large area that we haven't really delved into much on this channel, from everything from a variety of storage devices, both internal and external. I'm just kind of looking around at, there's some new cooling solutions coming out from companies like Thermaltake, which is, I don't think we've ever reviewed a Thermaltake cooler. We've reviewed those little contact frames. And then there's a few other manufacturers on Amazon that I see that I've never heard of before, and I don't really see any big YouTube channels reviewing them. So we might reach out, buy some of their product, and see if it's worth buying. The problem I see with Thermaltake, first of all, they seem to be a great price, and they, from what I've heard of them, really good value, and they work well. However, are they alone in that? I mean, compared to what? Compared to Noctua? That's not a fair comparison. What about compared to XYZ cooler? You know, someone you never heard of. How would you know if you never heard of it? So because they're not getting YouTube attention from the big content creators, I want to focus in on that. It's also a lot cheaper, right? We can put a motherboard out here that we don't have to build a whole system, put a cooler on it and evaluate it. That's much easier, much more sustainable. And it also creates unique content that you're just not going to find everywhere. I'm trying to shift away from what everybody else is doing. So if you're familiar with Thermaltake, the job is done. Let's go to someone you're not familiar with. Although we've not personally evaluated it, we might, just to get our opinion, if we agree with the other big content creators about it. Maybe we will. I like the Scythe Mugen 5, Mugen 6. They're still a great cooler today. They're still a great value. Sometimes we see air coolers that people tout as being wonderful that are as expensive or more expensive than a liquid cooler, which doesn't make any sense to me because liquid coolers should always cost more money. They're much more complicated in manufacturing and require more material. So I don't understand that one bit, but there's plenty of air coolers out there that cost quite a bit more than a liquid cooler. Is it worth it? My default is likely no, but I don't know what I don't know until I place it on a motherboard and evaluate it. So we'll see a little bit of that, well, a little bit more of that in 2025. And of course, we're always open to your suggestions. If you feel an injustice, really, that's what I'm after. Why doesn't this company get any attention? How come nobody's really reviewing XYZ? I love comments like that, so I can go and take a look at it and see if we're interested. Like, hey, maybe I didn't even hear of company XYZ. I want to check that out. Obviously, if we see anything that's really unique in computer cases, we'll do something like that, just because it's got to be different. It can't just be a repeat of another black box or another aquarium tank. It's got to be something uniquely different to make it worthwhile to make the content. I don't want to make content just for the sake of making content. I want to make content that offers you a different perspective and hopefully an introduction to a product or a company you've never even heard of before. And when I can do that, to me, that's my favorite content to make, because I don't have anybody to compare it to. You can't say, oh, this review is just like this other one, or Carey must have seen this other review before he did his because they both sound the same. I don't want that, and if it happens, it's unintentional, but I guarantee it won't happen if I'm the first one who does it, and I have my own perspective unquestionably. So with that, let me take a look here in the chat and see what you guys are saying. Dan Nilsson says, Peter Laycock, those were nice gifts to Carey and Marley. So I was really surprised. How did he know? That's freaking me out. That's a good freak out, though, not a bad one. There's Luke Greedy joining us on the chat. Good to see you, Luke. And Gil Garcia says hello. Matthew Burden saying Happy New Year's. Yes, Happy New Year's to everybody. I hope you have a great 2025. Really hoping that, since the pandemic started, we've been struggling. And I mean we as in all of us, whether it's housing prices, the economy, the inconvenience of the whole, wearing masks and being afraid of being around each other, to the point now where we're finally kind of shaking that off and forgetting that it ever happened. Many of us have already forgotten, and trying to get things back to normal economically, socially. And so here's hoping we get there in 2025. I hope we don't have another year of recovery, but it is what it is. And I'm just trying to be positive and hopeful that we'll get there sooner rather than later for all of us. Matt says he wants to learn more about BIOS. So the problem with that, Matt, my recommendation is to stay out of the BIOS. There are plenty of YouTube channels that will delve into a BIOS, but it's a multiple layer problem, in that rarely are two BIOSes alike. As you move from chipset to chipset, you get new bells, whistles, features. Sometimes older technologies are called something else. AMD wants to call their stuff different from Intel. They place MSI BIOS is very difficult to navigate. For me personally, I don't like it at all. Of all the BIOSes that exist, from ASRock, Asus, Gigabyte, MSI, MSI has the most convoluted BIOS I've ever seen, and I don't like it. Part of what we like is being familiar with something. So if 3 of 4 manufacturers all do it in a similar layout and one does it different than everybody else, unless you're just using that one all the time, it makes something simple difficult to just navigate and locate the option. The second problem we have on top of that is the BIOS is automatically set for you by the manufacturer by college degreed, diploma earning engineers who have worked out, tested what the best setting is for the world, not just for you, but it's got to be stable, it's got to be secure, and it's got to work for everyone. Anything extra that you think you're going to get out of your BIOS at the risk of causing a blue screen and Windows instability is such a small percentage increase. That's why the engineers dialed it back just a little bit. Getting it 7%, your whole system's 7% faster when it's already running nearly 6 gigahertz, if not more than that, to me is a complete waste of your time. This was something we did back in the day when we could double our processor speeds. You're not doubling anymore. You'll get 10 to 15% increase in overclocking. And the overclocking is automatically set by the BIOS these days. It doesn't require any individual tweaking. You are not going to make it better without a consequence. I guarantee it. And the minute we start showing that to people and say you want to know because you know what a BIOS is, there's a bunch of people who don't even know what a BIOS is. So we have to explain that. We have to show how to what it means in the BIOS. We have to keep updating it every time a new motherboard comes out. There's got to be a new look to the BIOS or new features and new options, and then explain why you shouldn't do this. So for that reason, I don't want to cover that personally, and I think it's completely unnecessary. Load your BIOS defaults, and unless you're setting up a RAID array, leave it at defaults. or unless you want to turn on XMP because you want the extra 8% of performance once in a while at the risk of causing a crash. I've turned on XMP and DOCP for my clients. They've never noticed it. Never, not once, not a single time have they ever noticed it. So I do appreciate the suggestion, but for those reasons, I am avoiding it. Now, 15 years ago, I talk about it. But these days, the best thing you can do if you want the fastest, most reliable computer, in my opinion, load the BIOS defaults, leave it alone. All of that has been very carefully worked out and tested to be a universal one-size-fits-all for everybody, so you get the best of performance and the best of reliability and the best of security and compatibility. Sometimes you change something in the BIOS, something will stop working, and you may not realize that for a while. So if you want to pursue that, of course, there are plenty of videos online. Some of them contain what I consider to be very dangerous information, in the sense that you're gonna inconvenience yourself, right? I don't think it's dangerous in the sense that you're gonna hurt yourself, but you could degrade the life of the hardware, and you could lose very valuable data on your computer as a result of trying to get a little bit faster. And I think if you want faster, you should spend more money on something that's going to make your computer faster. Faster storage, faster CPU. Obsession with heat is, we're still going to work on all of the internet myths regarding data that just mystically vanishes off hard drives that no one has ever proven. Solid state drives that people think the TBW rating is the life of the drive. That's not true. That's the warranty of the drive. People that think that when a solid state drive reaches the number of writes that it fails, that's not true either. If in the unlikely event you should write so much data to your SSD, which is far greater than the warranty TBW, terabytes written, in the unlikely event that should actually happen to you, and I've never met anybody in the real world that's ever happened to, then the device becomes read-only. So in other words, it becomes like a CD-ROM. It says, hey, all your write cycles have worn out, which would take the average person 40 plus years to do that. But let's just say you did it, or you're testing and you've purposely worn those cycles out. It just means you've worn out your write cycles. The drive doesn't fail. This is so frustrating for me. There's certain things in this industry that only exist on the internet. They don't exist in real life. And this is one of those things. This idea that data wistfully just goes off into the ether. It's never been proven. It's all theory. Everything on Earth will whisper into the ether eventually. When? 10,000, 10 million years from now? As far as I'm concerned, your data on any storage drive will last a lifetime. Specifically yours. If the data is really important to you, it's backups. When I see videos that explain how to remove a virus, when I see videos that talk about how to repair a drive using, SpinRite or some other piece, I just shake my head, and I'm like, only on the internet. When I see people showing power supply testers, I just shake my head. This stuff doesn't make any sense anymore. A new power supply is 40 bucks. So if I'm going out to a client's site and their system won't turn on, and I think maybe they've got a bad power supply, do you think I'm going to plug a $150 power supply tester in it that just checks voltage? So it's putting out 12 volts, so it's putting out 5 volts. That doesn't tell me anything. But what I can do is grab my $40 spare power supply that I know works. It's easy to carry it with me if I'm doing on-site field service work. And I don't even have to install it. I can just have the power supply outside of the case, plug the motherboard power in along with any drive power or SATA power that it needs, see if it works. It's the easiest solution, diagnostic you'll ever run, and it doesn't require any special tools or any special knowledge on how to use the tools. Now, back in the day when this stuff was more expensive, the tester made sense. But these days, replacement power supplies are inexpensive, and you don't have to worry about misreading the test or the test giving you false results. You simply replace the power supply. Did the problem go away or not? It doesn't get any easier, cheaper, and faster than that. negating any need for a power supply unless you're working on $1,000 power supply, right? When you reach a point where the tester makes sense and the time to test it makes sense because of the value of what you're testing, that makes sense. But as parts get cheaper and cheaper and more powerful, less expensive, more power efficient, even if you could fix the power supply, you're still better off replacing it because new ones will cost less money to run. They're more efficient. They're better for the ecology. And you get a brand new warranty. So for all of those reasons, power supply repair, virus removal, no one should need virus removal. Just restore your backup. Data recovery, no one should need data recovery. Restore your backup. Hard drive failure. What's the lifespan of my hard drive? Who cares? Who cares? That's an average number. Nobody can tell you what your specific drive or data storage device, how you're going to treat it, what environment it's in, how long is it going to, we can only average it out over the entire population of the entire world. We can say the average is this many years. Okay? What does that tell you? Does that tell you that you're likely going to have a failure? You should always think you're going to have a failure at any moment. That's what you should think. No matter how much you spend or how good the drive rates statistically, you should always have that backup to fall back on. That is your solution. It's the easiest, cheapest thing you could possibly. It requires so little effort, and it will get you out of every computer problem every single time. There's no registry entry. There's no downloading any software that's supposed to remove some rootkit or a virus. You just restore your image backup, and you're done in 10 minutes, like maybe a half an hour if you got a lot of data. Your drive fails. Look, never mind that the drive failed. You're not resuscitating that. It's gone. Even if you could resuscitate it, it's probably going to fail again. And if you try to resuscitate it and fail, any data recovery that might have been possible on that drive, you just made it irrecoverable in most cases because you manipulated it while it was in a failed state. Bad idea. And completely avoidable. And it takes hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and money to buy the software, learn how to use it, let the software run, and hope that it's going to get something back. A backup, by comparison, is a very low price, like with, let's say with Acronis. It's very inexpensive. It's very easy to do. You don't need a college degree to just follow the on-screen prompts. And if you ever have a drive fail, or somebody steals your computer, or there's a fire, or there's a flood, as long as your backup is put away somewhere, not just connected to the computer where it can be infected by the same virus and the same theft and the same fire and the same flood, it's super easy to go get another computer. It's easy. The problem that thing that's not easy is getting back all the things that you created, your pictures, your documents, your music, everything you use your computer for that you store on your computer. That's the thing that's priceless. And that's why people panic and they spend all this time and all this money needlessly because they weren't prepared with an insurance policy. That backup is your insurance policy. And if your stuff matters that much to you, then you back it up. And if it doesn't mean that much to you, don't back it up, but then don't come crying with, woe is me, my world is completely destroyed, when you were told. Like, there's just no reason for it. In 2024, we've been talking about this on YouTube since the start of YouTube, right? 2007, 2006. So, well, all I'm trying to get across to you is, in my world, when a client calls me and they say they have an SSD that failed, which, by the way, has never happened, but let's say it did, all I would do is replace the SSD with another one, which are very inexpensive. We'll probably get a bigger and faster one anyway. Restore the backup onto the drive. My client is up and running in less than 30 minutes, guaranteed every single time. Now, the old drive that I pulled, I'll check its serial number, I'll see if it's in warranty, and if it's worth the cost of shipping it, depending on how old it is, and if it's under warranty, then with the computer fixed and the pressure off and the data restored, I can take my time to send that drive back for a repair, or in this case, it'll be a replacement, because even the manufacturers don't repair anything anymore. They'll send me a brand new one, and I'll put that on my shelf for inventory for future use. And if it's out of warranty, it gets thrown in the e-waste bin in the recycler, and we move on. It's all going into e-waste. This is the other thing that concerns me is, you know, this concern about, oh, it's e-waste this and e-waste that. But it wouldn't be e-waste if you guys would just stop buying it. Every bit of electronics that you buy is going to e-waste. It may not go in there tomorrow. It may not go in there in 20 years, but it's going there. I promise you it's going there. And the manufacturers bear no responsibility to how you dispose of the product. That's your problem, not theirs. So the more you buy, the more you contribute to the e-waste problem. So if you want to be somebody who's going to bang on the e-waste drum, stop being part of the problem. Stop buying unnecessary tech gadgets. It's all going to e-waste eventually. So that also drives me a little crazy. It's another thing we see on the internet. The obsession with heat. This cracks me up every time I see it. And it's someone will have a laptop and they'll say, oh, this laptop's overheating. Let's open it up and let's clean it out. So they flip the laptop over and you find all kinds of lint and particles stuck in the heat sinks of the fans, and they clear all that out, right? Now, if they stop right there and not do any other work and just put it all back together, all the heat problems are solved. But no, they don't do that. Here's what they do. And I want you to understand the psychology of this, because they really believe this. What they do is they go, well, since we've got it open anyway, let's change that thermal compound. Thermal compound is meant to last for the life of the product. It doesn't matter how dry it gets. In most cases, it won't make any difference, or the difference thermal compound replacement makes is typically within a margin of error of room temperature between the tests, 1 to 3 degrees. That's it. That's all. So, but here's what they do. So they clean out what's actually causing the heat problem, which is blockage to the heat sinks and fans. Then they take all of the heat pipes off and they replace the thermal compound, which in my experience in over 30 years of this industry is a complete and utter waste of time. They put it back together and then they run the heat test again and go, look at how much cooler it's running because we did all that. But what they're not showing you is how much of that heat was caused by clearing out the vents and the fans, and how much of the heat was improved or caused by the thermal compound. And if you don't believe me, run this test yourself. But they pat themselves on the back, like, isn't it a good thing we cleared out the fans and the thermal compound? Look how much cooler and quieter this laptop runs. That's because you cleared out the fans. It has nothing to do with the thermal compound. Nothing. But they sure do make a lot of money. The thermal compound companies, content creators, those videos get a lot of clicks. They generate a lot of revenue. And the content creators, sometimes real working techs, truly believe that makes a difference. If it makes a difference, it's negligible. It's such a small... Now, if you're an extremist and every single degree matters to you, well, that's a different story, but you don't represent the regular, everyday folks. When I worked in corporate IT, and I worked in corporate IT for over 10 years, there's one thing that I can tell you for sure, the entire IT department did not have in our tool collection. We had wire cutters, we had needle nose pliers, we had screwdrivers, we had ratcheting sockets. You know what we didn't have? I promise you. We never, ever had thermal compound. Never. Not in any big corporation that I ever worked in did an IT department have, distribute, or even offer, if you requested, thermal compound, because it's on for life. Now, some people might say, well, that's because the equipment in companies are, is newer. No. We had equipment in some of these big companies that was over 10 years old. And it never, ever required thermal compound replacement. Yes, it did require dusting and maintenance. And there's a disconnect between what happens in reality and what happens on YouTube. And it's so false that if you don't know the difference, it's very believable. And so if you repeat what you see and you open up your laptop and you clear all the dust and debris out of it, and then you change your thermal compound while you're in there, and you go, wow, that worked. What you're not aware of is it would have worked if you'd only just done the easy part, which is just leave the thermal compound and those heat sinks alone, because that can be a challenge to get all that off and back on again. Simply clear out those fans and heat sinks and then run your heat test, and you'll see that's what made all the difference. So I'm going to work towards continuing to re-educate the internet, and it's probably a losing battle because it feels like I'm one of the only people that's actually talking about practical reality versus, well, in theory, right? In theory, data vanishes, and in theory, spin right works. But I've never seen anybody prove it. And I'm encouraging you guys in 2025 to look for evidence, look for proof of what people are making claims about. And think about the proof, right? So somebody opens a laptop, they do that work, and they prove it's running cooler now. Okay, but which part of that work made how much difference? So just cooling the fan, or clearing out the fans and the heat sinks, how much difference did that make by itself? And then on another laptop that's equally as bad, just change the thermal compound but don't clean the fans, how much difference did that make? And you're going to come to the exact same conclusion that I've known over 30 years because I've been there and done that. The thermal compound thing is it's a sham. It's a psychosomatic, emotional repair. It has nothing to do with practical reality, and is, in most cases, except in very, very rare cases, is that ever anything that makes any difference to anybody other than extremists who are trying to get, and when I say extremists, you know, people that get 7 or 8 gigahertz out of a CPU using liquid nitrogen to cool it. I mean, that's not me or anybody I know. And those CPUs last for about 10 minutes and they're done. And that's, liquid nitrogen isn't free either, and it's dangerous and you can hurt yourself. And you're trying to achieve a new world record and you achieve it momentarily and then get on the tech news media for a day or two, and the money you spent on that's gone. Thousands of dollars just because it's fun. I can't afford that kind of fun. So we're going to continue harping on that as long as it takes to get through to people. And I do hope that you'll help me in that endeavor by asking those kind of questions, right? Show me the proof. Let me see it. Or do it yourself and let us know your results. I love that more than anything other than he said or she said or they did or this link or that link. What about you? What's your experience? We'd love to hear from actual people we know about their actual experience, not somebody they know and not something they read. That's so critical in the world today because there's so much false information and so many bots and fake people that aren't real people who enjoy manipulating others. They get an enjoyment out of it. So I don't want to be their puppet any more than I want to be a corporate puppet, and I want to be able to verify what they're saying is true with evidence. That's it. I don't want to spend money I don't need to spend to fix problems I don't have and never would have. Okay. When I look back at the videos, I want to get back on track with what we've done this year, because what we're really about here today is just looking back at 2024, because we've done so much, it's easy to forget all the little details. So I want to bring up my YouTube channel because even I don't remember everything we've done. And let's just take a look, and I'd love your feedback on this as well, at some videos we did this year. Turn this on. Okay. So this should all be sorted by date. We're at the Carey Holzman channel here. This is just the live content that I'm focusing on. And anything that's a year old, I'm going to get past that. We're going to go to 11 months and newer. Okay, so we started out with the MS-01. Now, those of you who watch this channel, you've seen me pull the MS-01 out when I need to do examples and testing software examples for anytime I need a test system. I will grab for that MS-01 first more than any other. And why do you suppose that is? Because I like it. I have a lot to choose from. Why do I pick that one? It's powerful. It's capable. It's got Thunderbolt ports. It's got every port I'd want. It's easily grabbed and put on the desk. It's not heavy. It's not bulky. And then, you know, we had the SZ box, the Cyberpunk. We actually had 2 of these. And many of you don't know this, but in fact, you probably wouldn't know this, but I called up Gordon Maung, who I was very friendly with, and I knew he was ill, and I wanted to give him something to play with. And I said, hey, I've got 2 of these Cyberpunk PCs. Would you want one? Because I saw he was using something old on the PC World live stream. And he's like, oh, I just use that old system because I have it. I've got much better stuff than that. I go, well, regardless. I said, I got 2 of these. I'm not allowed to sell them. Would you like one? Just play with it. You don't have to do anything. And just give it to you. He's like, yeah. And he sent me his address, and I mailed it off to him. And he sent me a message back. He goes, hey, this thing's pretty neat. And then we never talked about it again. But I'm so glad, you know, we were able to get that one final thing in before he passed. And that was really sad news just a couple weeks ago. But moving on, we worked with Geekom a bit and was pretty impressed with what they had. Although Geekom likes to use their metal cases, and that really interferes with Wi-Fi signal. So your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth signal are significantly diminished because of how elegant and beautiful the case is. But it's a good, powerful, like the A8. I think the Air 12 was budget, so they're not all expensive. This one, I believe, was one of their budget line. Yeah, it says budget right in it. Then we did Codlix. Codlix is a division of Minisforum, and you can save a lot of money because nobody's ever heard of Codlix. But it's effectively the same as buying a Minisforum, and support for it is also at Minisforum's website. A lot of people don't know that. We introduced you to Project Zero. Oh, look at Mitch all scruffy. And Project Zero, well, that build, that's Luke Greenia fell in love with that. And he ended up buying it from us. And that was one of the last systems we ended up shipping. That went from Phoenix to Vermont. It cost $200 to ship it, and it arrived with some minor damage. So it was nothing Luke couldn't take care of. I think Luke and I were both kind of knocked off our chairs when we saw the cost of shipping it. But it's worth it to know it's in the hands of somebody who appreciates it, and he's since even upgraded it with a better, more attractive cooling system. We started looking at budget systems earlier in the year, in 2024, from Minisforum, you know, $200 mini PCs for people on budgets that were worth having. And the Minisforum UN100L definitely was, what can I say about it? To me, a lot of these entry-level budget machines are pretty close to the same. So whether it's Minisforum or B-Link or Ace Magic, that is a budget machine, and so my expectations are lower. So I wouldn't necessarily put the Minisforum brand on budget over anybody else, but I do trust them with regards to quality and support. But I also say the same for Ace Magic, and I also say the same for B-Link. Now, as we talk about Ace Magic, there was also the issue of the virus situation. That's long in the past and hopefully forgotten. Ace Magic learned their lesson, and you know, their company's just not been the same since. It'll be interesting to see. That may have killed their company because of what a contractor did. They did not do that. The contractor did it. I'm not saying it makes it right or it makes it okay, but they did not maliciously intend to do that, and they weren't aware of it, and they were just as surprised as everybody else. They could have responded to it faster, but I think they panicked. I don't know what happened, and they haven't really seemed to recovered from that to where they were. But they haven't done that again. You know, here's hoping it won't happen again. They're not trusting the contractors anymore. From what I can tell, everything's being double checked before it's being okayed for production. And that was not happening, and that's how those kind of problems can exist. And yes, that will kill your company just one time. People are very, very punitive in America, and never mind how many years of great service you've got behind you. If you screw up one time, that's all they're going to do. That's all they're going to remember. Never mind all the good you've done for years and years. You did this one thing that exercised poor judgment one time. Whether you're Marquez Brownlee or Linus Tech Tips, just screw up one time and you will be attacked to the level that is so over the top, it could shut you down entirely and certainly make you not want to do this anymore. So I feel bad for Ace Magic that it happened. I hope they're going to be able to get back to where they were, but we'll see what the future holds for them. I still like their products, and I recommend their products, in case you're wondering. We evaluated some SSDs, external, a little bit more on Project Zero, where we put it in the case that, again, Luke Greenia has that in Vermont now, where it's got a happy home. The Mini IT12 was another budget-minded PC here that was from Geekom. This unique tower here, the Encore 100 from Cooler Master, one of my favorite builds. That's sitting at Studio A because we ran out of room here in Studio C. And we haven't figured out what we're going to do with it yet. But I don't know what we'll do if the liquid cooler dies. It's got a proprietary liquid cooler in there. But, you know, they make liquid coolers better today than they used to, and the lifespan seems to be much better than they used to be. Just improvements in manufacturing. We looked at a new brand of Mini called T-Bow, and I think that was the other Cyberpunk. They're essentially the same computer with different manufacturer names. But otherwise, exactly the same. And I think we bought, I think T-Bow sent us the Cyberpunk, and I think we purchased the SC box from AliExpress. But they were the exact same computer. I mean exact. The only thing that changed was the name of the manufacturer. So clearly they didn't invent that. Somebody else made it. They just put their name on it. And that's interesting to be aware of. We looked at these really neat Wi-Fi routers that were minions. They don't look like electronic gadgets. They're meant to just blend in and nobody would know. They actually work really, really well. And we only had those temporarily for review, so we don't have those anymore. We did the one of the earlier PC builds of the year was a $600 motherboard from MSI that was a year old, and MSI apparently had a lot of inventory and reduced the cost to just $200. So we bought one. I think, I don't know, yeah. And then in the beginning there, I'm showing a prototype, one of the Intel NUCs, one of the final models before Intel licensed the technology out to Asus, is the prototype model that you would never see, which is really, really neat. And certainly thanks to our friends at YouTube channel and website Serve the Home for loaning that to us. Because normally you got to be someone special to get prototype models. And then again, more minis for them, different form factors, different performance levels. Our friend Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call, the remote software. In fact, I used it earlier today before the stream to help my customer with a networking issue. And if you want to learn more about remote access with Instant House Call, primarily designed for computer technicians to log into a computer they've never logged into before. It doesn't matter if your customer's in the same city or in a different country. Doesn't matter. You can gain access to the computer with the end user's cooperation and then grab control of their keyboard and mouse. As long as the computer turns on and gets internet, you can fix the problem. If it's a power supply or an internet connection, well, you still got to go on site. Geekom started sending us more of their higher end stuff, right? So the A7 and A8, very attractive little mini PCs that are very similar in design to Apple products, and very small, very quiet, very powerful, not cheap, but again, built really, really well. Geekom builds stuff really well. Now, about every 3 months, we'd have a Cronus on the show throughout 2024. I don't know if that's enough, because anytime Begoud and I get together, I mean, we talk for a while. His last visit was 4 hours. This one, hey, look, we managed to keep it under 2 hours, 1 hour and 41. That never happens. But we learned so much from Begoud, and he's so open and transparent with all the information. And even if something's not quite right, if we run into a bug or a misunderstanding, he reports that back to the developers so they can address it and get it fixed. It's not such a big company that it goes into a big bureaucracy and never gets done. We looked at more, again, from Minisforum. They have different series: Venus, Neptune, Mercury. These are different categories of mini PCs, and this was their Neptune line. And then we started back to another PC build. And then we did the Ace Magic F2A, which introduced AI, neural processing units on mini PCs. Let me jump back over to camera one here, because I know the screen is probably getting a little boring for you. The introduction of having a neural processing unit was all the buzz. For a while, it was all about VR, if you remember. VR ready, VR ready. Whatever happened to that? The Vive, HTC headsets, the Oculus Rift, whatever happened to that stuff? The Apple Vision Pro, where'd it go? It just never really found an audience. It never found a killer app. Unfortunately, it appears the same is true with all of the PCs now that are being sold with AI. Marketing left, right, and center has always been about the AI focus. This computer has an NPU, and it does so many teraflops per second, whatever. So what? Like right now, when we do any sort of AI, it's being done on the server side. So if I go to Suno or Sora, and I want it to create something from a description I write, a video, a song, it does it on their very expensive high-end servers and then sends the result to us over the internet. We don't have to process that locally. There are some applications introducing some AI function, like video editors and stuff that can auto-edit for you or auto-voice translate or other, fix your audio, stuff like that. But it still requires auditing. You still have to make sure it's accurate and done correctly. I would not trust AI to edit my video for me. I don't even know how it would decide where it's going to be edited. But depending on what kind of content you make, that might be worth it for you to have, Adobe Premiere that has AI that functions within only for computers that have an NPU. Otherwise, the NPU is just sitting there. So it's AI this, AI that. Hey, here's our new mini PC, the first one to introduce the AI integrated NPU. Okay, but what do we do with it? Well, if you have a specific piece of software that will utilize it, it's better. Okay, but what if I don't? How about the way you sold it to me with Windows 11 on it? What will it do now that it didn't do before? It's all the same. And therein lies the issue. We've got something and we don't know what to do with it. Maybe that'll change, but it appears that whole thing is a bust. It looks like all the marketing push for AI is the same as it was for VR. It's hype, 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 and then the people are buying it and going, what am I supposed to do with this? At the end of the day, it's still a great little mini PC. But when they're asking me to do the review and they're asking me to hype the AI the way they are, to do what? And you could get Adobe Photoshop. Okay, but what if I don't have Adobe Photoshop? What if I don't use my computer for Adobe? By the way, I don't. What else? Well, there will be more software coming up. Will there? So it's a first generation thing, and sometimes they catch on, sometimes they don't. It's looking pretty bad right now as far as the chips will still continue to come out with NPUs, but whether or not we get any software that enables us to utilize that, will we use it? I don't know. That's still to be determined, but it definitely did not live up to the hype as far as changing the world. Nothing changed, as far as I can tell, at least not for me. Did it change for you? Let me take a quick look in the chat before I get too ahead of myself here. Model Citizen said Hogmanay. How is that pronounced? I guess you guys can't tell me. Hogmanay? Official celebration in Edinburgh is canceled, but I won't start having a party and a wee dram. Yeah, what was that? We were watching a YouTube channel, and these folks went to Scotland, and they were learning some Scottish slang, and they said, a wee swally. Okay, good to know. Frank Jimmy joins us, says Happy New Year. Back at you, my friend. Picard says my all-in-one is in year 10. What make and model all-in-one, and how do you know it's working? That's the other issue. A lot of times the all-in-one is not working, or it's not working well, but it hasn't caused a problem yet. Because, well, let me put it to you this way. I had a customer call me once for, they had an early SSD, and it was like 60 gigs in capacity, and they were running out of room. And what they needed me to do was come out to the office, swap the 60 gig SSD for the 120 gig, because at that time, 120 gig cost the same amount of money as the 60 cost a year or so earlier. So the reason why we didn't put 120 in there to begin with is, first of all, we didn't know they'd need it, and secondly, it was a lot of money. So anyway, I go there to change out the SSD, and what I'm going to do is going to be relatively quick. I'm going to open the side panel of the 200R case. I'm going to plug the new drive in with a SATA cable, grab a power cable off the power supply. I'm going to load a Cronus and copy the old drive to the new drive, and then I'm going to remove the old drive, install the new drive, because I do this without installing it, and then button it back up. I'm out of there. It's a 20-minute job, 30 minutes tops. And what do you think I see when I open that computer up but a stock Intel heatsink that for some reason is not connected? It's on the CPU, but it's not plugged in. And I asked the customer, and this is an office, okay? They're running Excel and Word and email all day, 10 hours a day, let's say. I go, has your computer been crashing? Well, I'm getting out of space errors. I go, well, besides the out of space errors, because they were running out of space. I go, you're not getting like random shutdowns or anything? No, it's been the best computer we've ever had. It was one I built. So I don't understand how the cable got unplugged, but this is what happens if there's more than one IT person. So if they had a problem that they either solved themselves or they called somebody else got in there, because I guarantee I didn't sell it that way. Well, that fan hadn't been running for Lord knows how long. And they never had an overheat. So you can have an all-in-one that's not functioning fully or properly and be blissfully unaware of it. I would not assume that that all-in-one still works well, because after 10 years, even if the pump does work, the liquid inside of it has degraded, and you will have buildup. If you actually open it and take it apart, you will likely be amazed at how corroded it is on the inside and that anything can move at all. That's my projection. It seems highly unlikely that that cooler is running efficiently. And if you don't push your computer hard, like this office never pushed the computers that hard, they never ran into a heat issue, even though the CPU fan was never turning. There was a heat sink on it, and it was passively cooling the i5 chip, i5 Intel. But they were blissfully unaware of it, never knew there was a cooling problem because they never experienced a cooling. This idea that you have to have it, or that because you have it, it's working, it's an assumption. Luke Greenia says the Ace Magic TK11 mini PC I have is a really nice system and it runs flawlessly. Oh, absolutely. You know, when I got the Ace Magic, the AI thing, they made a big deal about it. Minisforum did too, the AI 370. And I told Minisforum, I said, you know, I think you're marketing this wrong. The thing that made the AI 370 special is its built-in integrated graphics on that AMD chip they're using was far superior than anything else on AMD at that time. So as a mini little gaming PC for that price, that's how you should be pushing this. You'll sell them like hotcakes. And they said, well, we'll let our marketing department know and we appreciate your feedback. And of course, they never did anything, just kept pushing the AI side of it. And I just shook my head and went, man, you guys just aren't, you're missing opportunity here because you're pushing for something. You're trying to make it happen by pushing it when you've already got a need that people are looking to fill, that you don't have to create it. It's already there. Just let them know, hey, if you want one of the fastest gaming mini PCs at a lower price, look for that AI 370, because never mind the AI part of it. Forget that part of it. This thing is fantastic for gaming. For the price you're paying, you really can't compare. There's really nothing that compares to that level of performance at that price. So all I can do is give feedback, and I really felt like if you change this from all about AI to all about gaming, you'd sell a lot more of them. But what do I know? I'm not in marketing. Matt says, Carey, I made a copy of Windows 11 with 24H2, watching you step by step using Rufus. Right on. That's why we make the videos, to help you guys out. Charlie Purdy joins us, and again, a thank you to Charlie Purdy for all of his support and contributions throughout 2024, along with all of our members for supporting us. Many of you over the 30-month mark from day one, which is it's so flattering, and I'm so So happy and delighted that so many people support us. I can't even put it in words. Let's see, Matthew Burden saying, have a great New Year. Thank you. We hope everybody has a great New Year. Matt Solov and Dan Nelson are speaking another language in the chat. Is that Dutch? I don't know what that language is. I can't read it. Let's see. Mortant saying he's wishing everyone a happy New Year, along with Thomas Mac T. You guys are just the greatest, the largest community of supportive and kind individuals I have seen anywhere on the internet, without exception. There are other great communities. They're usually quite small. When you consider the scale of how big our community is and how universally kind and supportive everybody in this community is, I've just never seen anything like that, and I'm so proud of it. You have no idea. That's why I keep coming back for more, is to just hang out with you guys. Even if I got nothing to say, let's just hang out the same way friends do. So I really appreciate you, you know, making this community even a thing. So lots of Happy New Year wishes from folks in the chat. And again, we thank you all. And I don't even think you're talking to me. You're talking to each other, which is this is fantastic. Gerardo Quintana Roo is now a member for 31 months, and he says, happy 2025. Well, thank you, Gerardo. Thank you for renewing your membership and staying with us all this time. We certainly appreciate it. We love having you here. Richard DeFries says, good night all. He's off for a few bevies in the local to celebrate New Year. Enjoy. Slancha, Richard, and Happy New Year to you, my friend. Dan Nielsen said they're speaking Swedish. So isn't Sweden, maybe I'm thinking of Switzerland, it must be Switzerland, where they speak three, they have French, German, Swedish? What do I know from Sweden? Was it great? There was a movie in Sweden, a television movie based on books. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Wow, what a great show that was. So good. And the author had passed. He died a bit unexpectedly at a pretty young age. And Sweden, wasn't it? And then I think Spotify is from Sweden, aren't they? And the story of Spotify, called The Playlist. Get that with English subtitles. Get both of these with English subtitles. These are great shows where Spotify is based on what actually took place to create Spotify and the challenges and obstacles. And The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is just fiction, but boy, is it fun. And there's three books, and then a fourth book was finished by somebody else. There was a big lawsuit with the family over who had the rights. Anyway, very entertaining. Is that Switzerland and Sweden? Am I confusing them? I always confuse them because I'm American. What do I know? They both look like beautiful places I'd rather be than Phoenix. Let me tell you that. I'd be in Zurich. What's the big city in Sweden called? Being live and unscripted, it's nothing like showing my geographical ignorance. All I can tell you is I'm American. America is the world. Everything else around it is just extra. Anyway. So they're talking Swedish. Got it. Stockholm. There it is, Stockholm. Thank you, Dan. I knew it was right there. Gregory Howard with a $20 super chat says, hello, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat. The coffee PC works great. Thank you. So, Gregory, we certainly appreciate your kindness and support throughout the year. And we're so happy that you have that little, it's a Johnsbow, isn't it? Was it the Johnsbow case? It looks like a little coffee machine with the curved glass. And Gregory's out there in Ohio, I think. So the shipping wasn't too bad from Arizona to Ohio. And I think it arrived perfectly. No issues whatsoever. Of course, it didn't go as far. And you know, my biggest concern, my anxiety is, does it get there okay? And is he going to like it? Well, he got it. He says he likes it. Now it's been months later. I don't know. It's been 6 months more. And he's still loving it. And that's what I'm in it for. I'm not in it for how much money can I make on this. I kind of live vicariously through how other people are feeling. People are happy. I feel that empathy, that happiness. And if they're feeling frustrated, I feel frustrated. And in that way, what I'm pursuing for my own satisfaction is somebody else's happiness that I know I was a part of. And if it's somebody's sadness that I was a part of, that makes me feel terrible. But that motivates me far more than money. But at the end of the day, I can't pay the rent with empathy. The electric company's not taking those kind of payments. But you know, like anybody else, to that extent, the money plays a role. But why I get up and do what I do every day is to make sure I get people a good value, something well built, and something that if they ever have a problem with it, they can talk to the person who built it. Try that with Dell or HP. Good luck. So getting back to what we were looking at here, there's Lee 1302. Happy New Year. Back at you, Lee. Thank you. Let's get back over to continuing on with what we did in 2024. And it's a lot for one guy to do. When you think about the scale of what I'm doing here, this is not the only thing I do. I can't even tell you how I did all this content. Each one of these 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours, 2 hours, and 2 hours, 2 hours, hour and a half. Hey, that was a short one. 2 hour and 41, 3 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, this is a ton of content for one person to make, and this is why we have to do it live and unscripted and unedited, or we couldn't get through all of this. We would have gotten 20% of this done if it required a team of people to work on it. And then I don't even know how we pay for it. So we're just doing it as much as we can every day with as much variety. You don't see a bunch of the same thing over and over. You know, mini PC to full PC to mini PC to NAS, back over to a PC build, a mini PC. We talk about cooling here. We talk about World Backup Day. We try to raise awareness throughout the year about the importance of backups. We had Paladin was a new manufacturer we were introduced to, I think, in 2024. Maybe the first one was 2023, but this was a new model from them, and they seem to make really well-built machines, although we haven't had a lot of variety from them. I have liked what I've seen so far, and they're one of these brands you probably never heard of. So there could be some real savings because you're not paying a brand awareness tax. Another minis for them, the NAB 9 was one of my favorites. This, I think, is the coffee build right here, the Johnsbow TK1. Was that the coffee machine? Or no? I can't remember anymore. That was 8 months ago we did that build. We did a diagnostic and a repair, followed by another diagnostic and repair, followed by another. And every one of these diagnostics and repairs are different and have nothing to do with one another. We go back to another mini PC review with a manufacturer we'd never heard of before called Max Tang. They have a pretty good sized catalog, and I don't know where they came from or where they've been, but we were introduced to them this year, and we had a little problems getting out the gates with both models. Not terrible, but enough to be concerned. And yet they have lots of other models that we weren't introduced to that I wonder how they compare, right? Maybe. And one of the reasons I think Max Tang sent it to us is I think they're entering the US market and they wanted sort of a US ideal of values, but I don't know for sure. Again, I'm just suspecting. We certainly enjoyed working with them. They seemed to enjoy our feedback, though it was critical. They did address the issues we had. And of course, we want to make sure that they're selling a good product to, you know, if we're going to review it and introduce our audience to it, and if it's got any sort of issues that we need to draw attention to, we want the audience to be aware of that before they buy it.
We want the manufacturer to have the opportunity to correct it before they sell it, because this is what we're expecting. I hope we work more with them in the future. We'll see. And I hope we don't have the same issues going forward, that they've learned from it. But again, they've got so many products, many more than I even knew about. I can't imagine that they would have had those issues, but other than maybe this was a brand new product that hadn't really been thoroughly vetted, I don't know. And then Minis Forum shocked us with a tablet. And not only is it a tablet, it's also a laptop. It's also just a portable monitor if you just want it to be a portable monitor. You attach a keyboard to it, you've got a laptop. You take the keyboard off, you got a tablet, or you plug it into your laptop, or you plug it in to your desktop, and you can use it as a secondary monitor. So it's called a 3-in-1, and usually these are Intel powered. This was AMD powered, which had never been seen before. If we have a criticism, the battery life could be better. Other than that, that's it. This thing, wow. How can you love and hate something at the same time? Well, that's what this is. The Ace Magic Starship PC, the M2A Starship. Come back over here to camera 1 because I've got that right over here. And as much as I love this computer, there's so much about this that I like. Look, you can have a beautiful car that's got a 3-cylinder engine in it. It looks fast, but it's not fast. And you can have a really fast car that looks like a pile of junk, but it blows everybody off the road. Or you can have a beautiful hypercar that has the looks and the performance, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And they're usually quite difficult to service and expensive to service. Well, that's effectively what we have here. And the part that it's difficult to service, I think, was avoidable. And I don't know, I mean, to me, the solution was very simple. But the problem with this, initially, Ace Magic promoted this as having upgradable RAM and SSD. But then when we tried to figure out how to change it, even I couldn't figure it out. Like, it required a level of teardown that was getting me a little bit concerned that I wasn't going to be able to put it all back together. Now, by comparison, Ace Magic had previously released a machine called the Tank 03. But we bought a Tank 03 on AliExpress, exactly the same as Ace Magic, but it doesn't have the Ace Magic name on it. So we're right back to this whole game that's being played with who's the actual manufacturer. Like, I could call it a Holzman PC. I could buy them and sell them and put my brand on it and say that's a Holzman, even though I had nothing to do with its design or manufacture. But as far as you're concerned, you're buying a Holzman PC, you'd come to Holzman PC for support, and you would write reviews on it. So the Tank 03 is a cube, and it's very easy. Little access doors on each side. One side gets you to the RAM, one side gets you to the SSD. It's a little latch you move, the panels come off. No tools required. Basically, take all the same innards, the same motherboard, the same CPU, all of that. Change the case, put a bunch of RGB and a display on the front of it. Sounds great to me. Got lots of ports on the back. But, and this is a big but, you can't get to the RAM or SSD easily. This thing has to be fully torn down in a way that it was never intended. For example, you've got to remove some rubber feet in order to get to some screws that are that far down in here, and you need a screwdriver that's very narrow and very long with the right kind of tip. It's not an ordinary thing people would normally have on them, and that only gets the bottom off. The motherboard that contains the SSD and the RAM is up on top, but the top doesn't come off. Only the bottom comes off. And then everything's attached to the top, and everything has to be disconnected from the top and removed. All the wires disconnected, and then you can flip the board over, and there's your socketed RAM and your socketed NVMe. And when we pushed Ace Magic for information on how do you upgrade this, because I felt like I must be doing this wrong, right? Because I don't read a manual, I just want to take it apart. It should be intuitive. Ace Magic very quietly changed the website to no longer say that the RAM and storage can be upgradable. That was their answer. Now, to me, you could have had some seams on a little removable door over here and over here. You'd have access, no screwdriver required, just like the Tank 03. The difference is I see the Tank 03 exactly the same on AliExpress from other unknown manufacturers. And I mean, it matches in every way, except the Ace Magic logo is not on it. But this one with the Ace Magic logo here, I don't see this on AliExpress from anybody else. So this truly seems to be their product. Furthermore, when we looked at the German website for Ace Magic and compared it to the American one, they contained different information, and we pointed that out. I think it was an oversight. Maybe it was a copy and paste. I don't know what happened, but like they took a previous product that was slightly different, copied and pasted it, and then never went back and corrected the differences, and so the websites didn't match. And we're like, well, which one is it supposed to be? And again, Ace Magic they responded and said that the German site would be corrected and thanked us for pointing it out, but that was essentially all we got. So I think if Ace Magic has any issues, it's not with the computers themselves, it's with communication with the customers and with their, as they've learned, their contractors that they hire to, for example, set up the BIOSes and whatnot, and the software. They don't do that. That's done by another party, and it should have been audited. And they know this now, okay? This is a great little computer. It's fun. It's unique. You likely never see anything like this. I love everything about it, except I will not upgrade the RAM and CPU. Or RAM, not the CPU can't be upgraded. The RAM and storage. There is a website you can go to for support on Ace Magic and other mini PCs called PC Union, minipcunion.com. And there you can find a lot of the drivers and downloads for the operating system for each model from Ace Magic and Camrui. And a representative of Ace Magic there, a guy named Barry, is like the main administrator who answers a lot of the questions. And it's a forum, it's a public forum where people can ask each other questions. You would have no idea that that had anything to do with Ace Magic. It's called minipcunion.com, and it's just a forum, but it has links for updated BIOSes and things like that, and community folks all over the world that have units that they want an answer to a question, right? So not everything is in English. And when asked, what's the teardown of this to replace the SSD and NVMe, no response. And so there were a few people who said, well, Carey, why don't you do it? Because I have one and I want to watch you do it. So I want to upgrade my RAM and or my SSD, but I don't want to figure it out. Would you film it? And someone else said, yeah, would you do it? And someone else said, yeah, would you do it? And I said, look, I don't want to break mine. I'm happy with the SSD and RAM it has. And if there were more than 3 of you, I'd be tempted to do it. But 3 people, this didn't sell that many. And of those that sold, how many people know about minipcunion.com? There's like 3 or 4 people. That's it. I know they sold more than 3 or 4 of these, but the majority of owners wouldn't know to go there. So who am I going to make this video for? That's a lot of work, and maybe I break it. I mean, I probably won't, but anyway, that was kind of a unique situation that Ace Magic sort of never addressed it. They have teardown videos. Ace Magic has their own YouTube channel, and they have teardown videos, but not on this one they don't. So that was, again, without any further information from Ace Magic, we're just left to our imagination to why things are. That doesn't make the unit bad or unreliable or even a bad value, but it's definitely, as Americans, we expect better customer support than that. And it just may be a cultural value difference. I don't, again, without any communication in that way, I just don't know. But I also, for me personally, I would still have no problem recommending Ace Magic products to my customers and standing behind them and supporting it myself. Because they're such a great value for what you're getting, in my opinion. And I'm going to be the one that my customers call anyway. But I can't say that for all mini PCs, mainly because I don't have enough time and experience with them. With Ace Magic, we've been looking at them now for 2 or 3 years. Same with Minis Forum and Geekom. Paladin is still new to us. Max Tang is still new to us. The jury's still out. Some companies made mistakes. Chuwi, CHUWI, we bought a unit from them that was Windows 11, but it wasn't Windows 11 compatible hardware. And I felt that was fraud and deception, and I was very angry at being deceived. But then all the other Chuwi units I've looked at since have all been just fine. So do I recommend Chuwi? You know, if you're under a budget, you can get something very inexpensive from Chuwi that is fine. It's fine. I don't use it myself, but I also haven't used all their products. And the cheaper you go, the more likely you're going to be deceived. So if you're looking at something that seems like it's a really good value, do some research, you know, check what CPU it has, and just see if that's a Windows 11 compatible CPU. I had a hunch when I bought the unit from Chuwi that said it had Windows 11, and it was very cheap. It was like $100 for a little mini PC. And I knew, well, I had a hunch that according to what I'm seeing online, the CPU they say that comes with is not on the Windows 11 compatibility list. So they would have had to bypass and circumvent the Windows 11 verification, hardware verification. They would have had to have circumvented that, bypassed it, to get Windows 11 on it. But I didn't know for sure. So we ordered one, we paid for it. Chuwi didn't send it to us. We ordered it, we paid for it. I think I ordered it from Newegg. And sure enough, that's exactly what they did. They circumvented the security requirements to force Windows 11 on it. And when I called them out on it, I said, you guys have Windows 11 on this when it's not Windows 11 compatible hardware. And do you know what their answer to me was? How can it be deception? We said it came with Windows 11, and it came with Windows 11. You're going to play this game? And I was livid. It'd be okay if you said, we made a mistake. Oh, you caught us. No, there's no deception. We told you it had Windows 11, and you got Windows 11. What's the problem? Where's the deception? And I let them have it. I go, circumventing security requirements to bypass what's absolutely required for Windows 11 is deception in its manipulation, and it's absolutely deceit. And then all communication stopped. But I've since looked at other Chuwi mini PCs that I've again said, well, this one is Windows 11 compatible. Let's just try that, and it's fine. And then other tech channels have looked at some Chuwi PCs, and you can search YouTube yourself. They're like, yeah, they're fine. I don't think that they're fantastic, but I also don't think they're terrible. But that's also because of what they cost. You could buy something with much better support, with a much more predictable experience, spending a bit more from a better known manufacturer. But overall, my opinion on the whole thing is, yeah, if somebody has $200 to spend and they want a little like 2-in-1 tablet or something, I don't think you're going to find more for your money than from Chuwi, at least with regards to having an expected experience. You can roll the dice with other lesser known manufacturers and see what happens. And as long as you order from Amazon, you always have 30 days to return it for free for any reason. But likely, at least for me, when I order something, I'm ordering it with the idea that I'm going to keep it. I don't want to order it just to use it and send it back. Waste of my time. So anyway, let me get back over to more videos we did this year in 2024. So again, we bought a computer that was listed as for parts only on eBay. Most of the time, there's no deals there. You've got to be really good on your timing to find a good deal. And it was cheap enough that I thought I'd risk it. And I got this iBuyPower PC that turned out wasn't really broken at all. There's people that do the evaluations are doing it very quickly. They're doing dozens of computers every day, and they don't care if they've sorted it in the wrong pile. They're not going to spend any more time on it. They list it as eBay is not working for parts only, and then we get it. We spend a little bit more time and attention than they did and realize it was very simple to fix. There's the Geekom A8. That's that little Mac Mini looking box, which in many cases is far better than any Mac Mini, but also a lot cheaper. Very attractive little box. A little bit more here on the final. This was I think the full-size edition of Project Zero. We did a micro ATX and we also did a full ATX version. And then Ace Magic introduced us to some laptops. And I've got to tell you, these are great laptops for what you're getting. These would be great for somebody who needs to learn remotely, somebody who's not gaming, somebody who needs something to open Word, Excel, browse the web, social media, YouTube. And they have a couple different versions, and they are unbelievably priced. Like, these are very inexpensive. They're very surprisingly easy to work on. You take the back off, it comes off super easy without any clips. The battery's changeable, the RAM is changeable, the SSD is like even Sony's, well, not Sony, that's a bad example. Samsung or Dell's aren't this easy and aren't this upgradable. But you're not going to upgrade the processor, and it's a very budget processor, and it gets the job done, all right? And if that's all you're needing, you don't need to buy a school bus if you're just driving yourself around the neighborhood. And in this case, you could buy 3 of these. You know what? I could buy probably 7 or 8 of these for what my Samsung Galaxy Book 3 cost. But it depends what you need it for. We were very lucky to have the ear of Synology in 2024. And anytime we asked Synology for anything, they'd send it to us, no questions asked. That never happens. So we got the 918 Plus, and no, I take this back. The 918 is an older Synology unit. This is not a new unit. The reason I know that is the 18 implies it came out in 2018, and we did some kind of an upgrade to show you just how usable the NASs last a much longer time overall than, say, a PC. And then later on in the year, then we got some new Synology NASs to evaluate and compare against something 5 years, 6 years older. And it just goes to show that when you buy a Synology NAS, they do last a very, very long time. And the upgrades that occur in the later models are pretty minor, in my opinion, from model to model and year to year. The Sama was the case, the larger ATX style case for Project Zero. I ended up selling that case for half of what I paid for it just to get it out of the build. I was so upset working on that. They offered us no cable management for the rear mount. The minute you plug the rear power connector or the motherboard power connector in the back, the rear panel wouldn't close anymore. The rear panel didn't have any screws, and there wasn't enough space for the cabling for the rear cables. Like, what a stupid design. There were other things about this case I didn't like, and I never heard of Sama before, and you'll likely never see another Sama case here. But I didn't know that when I ordered it, or I would not have ordered it. Retan is another mini PC manufacturer we never heard of before. And this was a fantastic little computer, the Alloy 9, very similar in a lot of ways to the Geekom in its design. I'm not quite sure who the parent company of Retan is, but again, with the unfamiliar name, usually follows a cheaper price. We built the Thermaltake Tower 300. That was all financed through you guys. And that's still sitting behind me right now. I'm standing right beside it. We did Triku, another mini PC brand that is like Paladin in a lot of ways. They might be the same company. Very solidly built, very heavy little unit. And I can't speak for the support, but the product quality seemed there, and it's got a little RGB around the edges and such if you're into that. We took a look at some pocket routers. We never looked at pocket routers before. And we reached out to GLINet, and they sent us their latest model. But this all started with a coupon that I saw offering a refurbished portable router from GLINet for $30. I thought, I'm not sure what this does or why I want it, but for $30, I want to check it out. Now I own 6 of them of varying models. and also from their competitor, their main competitor called Kobe, C-O-B-Y, I think. Anyway, they're relatively inexpensive. The latest models being around $100, and then you can pick them up, the older models refurbished, I think as low as $12. They usually sell out, but watch for Amazon discounts and stuff like that. But even at $100, you know, if you want the latest, greatest Wi-Fi and capabilities, they all use the same open source WRT firmware, open WRT firmware on them. So it's not manufacturer specific when it comes to updating the firmware on the pocket router. And if you don't know much about them, be sure and check out that video. We took a look, again, this is part 2 of that Thermaltake Tower 300. The Simply Nook Onyx was a unit we borrowed from Serve the Home. I was curious about this because it was very expensive. Onyx was the model, Simply Nook is the company, and Simply Nook, if you go to their website, their prices are a good $200 to $300 more than everybody else. And I thought, well, is it built better? Well, it seemed just as good as anything else, and I don't know why the price increase, there's a word for that, why it had such a high price tag on it. It didn't make any sense to me. So I like it, but I think it's overpriced. And that's pretty much true for everything Simply Nook sells. I don't know why the prices are so much higher. Nothing personal against them, but if I can get Ace Magic or Minis Forum or Paladin or anybody else, Geekom, for, you know, $300 less, I don't understand where's the benefit in paying that extra money. So maybe that were just the models I was looking at the time. Maybe prices have changed since then, but boy, they promoted the heck out of this as the best money could buy, and it just seemed like any other similarly equipped mini PC, higher price tag. So maybe there's a part of that I don't get. Minis Forum gave us an opportunity to review some units before anybody else, and we always appreciate that. So that started the UH125 Pro. We had a computer we upgraded next, along with another Geekom, the GT13, which is actually a nice little powerhouse right there without the excessive price of the elegance of like the A8 or, you know, etc. We looked at another Musitex case and did a build in that. And I can't remember what I was talking about in this video. Coming over, the next thing we did was this really cool build. It's a mini ITX case from Inwin using a mini ITX motherboard. And I've still got that sitting on the floor to my right, your left. Nothing wrong with it. It works perfectly. It's a great little PC. I just have no use for it. But again, anything that's different, I'm all over it. And so we financed that with your help, with Amazon gift cards and your support, your membership money. And that's how we were able to make this video. This is part 2. That happened about a week later from part 1. Then we had this really amazing mini gaming PC that had a discrete graphics card soldered on the board in the same way a gaming laptop would. And this had AMD's, what was the chip? Radeon 70, what is it? It's got to be in the show notes right here. 7600M, the RX 7600M discrete GPU is on this. So this is a real mini gaming PC. And when I say real, I mean proper AAA gaming. And, you know, you're looking at over $1,000 for a unit like this. But still, when a GPU alone can cost you $2,000, or even on a low end, say a 4070 Super is going to set you back $600, all of a sudden you're getting the whole computer and a GPU, maybe not as good as, but really, really, really good for a mini PC or a gaming laptop. And $1,000 doesn't sound so bad anymore. And that was the first of a new series where Minis Forum spun off a new manufacturing name called Atom Man. And Atom Man is Minis Forum, but it doesn't say Minis Forum. Instead, it says Atom Man. And Atom Man came out with a number of different PCs this year that we've had the privilege to look at. These are $1,000 and over, and they're not all for gaming. The Atom Man well, I'm sure we'll see it in here, a little 4-inch by 4-inch box that stands upright on a stand, has a little LCD screen on it. It's one of the fastest mini computers I've ever used. So I'm talking about, productivity, not gaming. And so Atom Man is not just about gaming, but it's about the best you can cram into a little tiny space. And they decided to separate that under like Ford and Lincoln, or Acura and Honda, or Infiniti and Nissan. Toyota and Lexus. So Atom Man is the Lexus brand of minis for them, let's just say. Well, that's the best way I can explain it. We also had another minis for them, the AI 370. Now, this is the one I was talking about earlier, where I felt like they're really pushing the AI. This is the world's first AI, blah, 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 but no way to really test it. No real practical world example of how you would use it. Sure, there's benchmarks. We can measure the teraflops or whatever, but regardless of that, great little gaming PC for the money. Because the onboard, the integrated GPU on that AMD Ryzen, outstanding performance. Again, AAA gaming. Then we did a best bang for the buck build, followed by, looks like a part 3 to the unbuild video we did. This was a frustrating build for me because there were some changes and information I didn't have in the beginning. And the product itself I thought was going to be fine from Fractal Design, although I'm not a fan of fractal cases. I thought Fractal, at the customer's request, they mentioned a Fractal Design case. Every Fractal Design case has been built fine. I just don't care for the layout. So for all I knew at the time, what do I care? Then we got it and found out it's one of the worst cases I've ever worked on, made of the most inexpensive, cheap materials. The power light didn't work. A search on Reddit shows a lot of people with a Fractal Focus G have non-working power lights, which means the whole front panel has to get switched out. Imagine you built your whole computer, you spent all your time on it, and now you realize the power light doesn't come on. What do? Not to mention the whole case is really flexible, bendable, cheap. So we went with a Cougar case instead. It was okay. These are very discounted, lower name brand cases. And again, the lack of familiarity with those cases, the lack of working with the customer and their expectations left a lot of miscommunication. And again, that falls on me to do a better job in getting everything, gathering the information I need. Customer doesn't know what I need. I have to, interrogate the customer. After I've worked with a customer for a while, they'll start to get it, right? And then they go, well, I know you're going to need to know this, that, and the other. So that's on me. And it was very frustrating for me. When I took on the job, I thought it was going to be an in and out thing, and it took a lot longer, and I was getting very frustrated. But at the end of the day, I want the customer to be happy. And because I film everything, if I have a customer that's watching a video, they could be offended, or they might feel embarrassed, or they might feel insulted. And that's the downside of what I do. Ideally, customers never watch my videos, okay? That the audience, the videos for the audience, because I'm never intentionally insulting anybody. I don't do that. But somebody might interpret it that way. And that's when I refer to like miscommunication. And that just makes the whole message completely, like the audience gets the message, but the person that's the subject of the message might feel like you just embarrassed me in front of a bunch of people, which isn't really. Sometimes when we learn lessons, like for me personally, I embarrass myself all the time. How many times did JJ correct me the other day when I was trying to figure out, I got the screwdriver. He's like, no, you don't use a screwdriver, you just open the latch. I felt like a complete idiot. But that's how we learn. And not everybody accepts that way. Some people feel like, this is what I have to be careful about making these videos, is I'm not misrepresenting or miscommunicating to the customer that, by the way, I make videos, right? I'm going to show this. Most customers look forward to that. but they've got a picture in their head of how it's going to be. And then when it turns out I'm getting frustrated, they might feel like it's their fault. And it's never their fault. It's never. It's always on me. I want to make that very clear. And while my attitude about embarrassing things are fine because that's how we learn, other people are, I don't care, embarrassing is never good. And I disagree with that. But how somebody feels is how they feel. So that is a little thing I deal with on the repair side that most repair folks never have to deal with, right? Because they do the work behind the scenes. Nobody sees or hears their frustration or there's, just the whole process of making errors. Nobody sees that. I show it all. I embarrass myself all the time, and it may be wrong for me to assume other people should be fine with being embarrassed. If we're all learning from it, that's the point isn't to make somebody feel low. It's that we can all gain from that experience. So wouldn't we all want to share our experiences, even if what the story I tell is like, what an idiot I was? For a lot of people, I guess, they're going to keep that to themselves, and I'm a bit unique that way, I guess. So anyway, something for me to keep in mind as I go forward into 2025. Now, going back over to my window capture, to other content we made in 2020, I mean, we're still going. This is a lot of content. Again, you look at 2 to 3 hours per video, 4 to 7 days a week. And this is just me trying to catch up. The Black Widow case, this is another case that I thought was going to be better than it truly was, and ended up selling off the case under the condition I never want to see this case ever again, and sold it for less than half of what I paid for it just to get it out of here. I hated it that much. Very difficult to work on, no cable management consideration, looked pretty on the outside and just horrific on the inside. Won't buy another B Gears case ever again. Never heard of them, and now I know why. These are all my opinions and my values and my standards that if I'm claiming they're not living up to is not assume that you will agree, but just to help you understand my perspective. The Asus Nova Wi-Fi 7, one of the very first builds we did with the new Ultra line of Intel CPUs, and what a great motherboard this is. Fantastic. Still haven't finished it. It's still sitting in front of me waiting for a case and power supply we haven't decided on. A little bit of a warning during the holidays, the scammers are out as active as ever, trying to steal from you during a time of year where people should be nice to each other. That's where scammers do their best work. Then, of course, we've got the Max Tang issue and resolution to an issue we had with Secure Boot. We were reviewing the BT10 Wi-Fi 7 mesh system from Asus. And again, a thank you to Asus for sending us the unit for review. We had some issues getting it running, but we believe now the issues were caused by our ISP. Because of how busy we've been, not been able to put it back up on the bench and test it, but we intend to. We're not done with this unit yet. We believe that the issues we had, if we try this again now that our ISP has addressed some of the problems we've had, that those problems were related more to the cable modem than they were to the router. So we're going to revisit this in 2025 and try and give it a more fair review than what we did. That's just the way it is, right? There's only so much we can control. We did another computer build. We did another interview with Acronis and another minis forum talking about a sale they had for Black Friday where they had a lot of discounts. Of course, just a regular question and answer session while I was also doing some work. And then the latest build that we did, the Asus ProArt build. We've never worked with a ProArt line of products. They've been well beyond our financial reach, but with the assistance of not only your super chat contributions and gift cards from Amazon, but also Asus providing us the liquid cooler and the motherboard. We now had the excuse with 2 major expenses out of the way to pay for everything else. And that machine right now, Mara has in her office, and she is just still setting it up to do all the administrative work, thumbnail creation. She answers all your emails. She's doing all of that right now from the Asus ProArt Z890 motherboard. Everything is awesome. The thing is quiet. It's attractive. Mitch came over the other day, looked at it. He was drooling over it. Mara, you want to put your old Apache helicopter back?
Let me
Speak up.
find a way. Okay, let me find a way to be very clear.
Be clear.
This new PC is, let me be nice. This new PC is absolutely fantastic. Like, it blows everything I've ever had out of the water.
Now she's coming, let me interrupt for a second. She's coming from a 10900K, which was a top of the line build. But when did we do the Thermaltake build? That was 4 or 5 years ago, right? 4 years ago?
Something like that.
It's no slouch.
Yeah. However, so here's the thing is, yes, so the Apache, the insides were a little older. And it was starting to struggle with all the work that I've been doing, and all the applications that I have open at any number of times, and not to mention Chrome 1,000 times.
She's a multitasker.
I multitask, and profiles and applications and imaging, and there's a lot of things that I do all at the same time. The Apache was starting to struggle. It is still one of the most beautiful cases, and with all the RGB that was on it, it was absolutely amazing to look at.
The Thermaltake.
Beautiful. Yes, it was just
now
beautiful.
The ProArt Z890 case has no RGB.
No RGB. However,
which was a priority for you.
It wasn't necessarily a priority.
It was.
Well,
back then,
okay,
but now your perspective has changed because now you want to get work done.
Okay, well that's fair. That's fine. But again, the RGB I always knew was just a fun addition. It wasn't a high priority important item. It was nice to have, and if I could get it, that's what I would get. As of right now, though, with the ProArt and what I have currently, and what I have been able to set up so far, and when I have the work I have been doing so far, the response time, there is no comparison at all.
It's almost like it reads your mind.
Now I'm running into a couple of weird little things, which I will work out.
They're set up and configure it. It's new, and she's setting it all up.
Of course, but so far, from a performance perspective, from a responsiveness, there's no comparison at all. I have had no hiccups at all, and even today now, I whether or not it's YouTube or Chrome or whatever it is, I have not had. Only had one memory leak issue today.
I don't think there's anything we can do.
It's not related, but I just find it, it's nice. But
do you miss the RGB? I got her a little RGB lamp.
So here's the thing: do I miss the RGB? Yeah, I kind of do. However, there's a clear panel on the side of the case, and I can look in, and there's a tiny little bit that's nice. It's not the same.
Did I leave something on? I'll turn it off.
No.
I'm kidding.
No, I like being able to do it. And I did add a wonderful little RGB option to the top of the case, which is great. So
a lamp.
But kind of. So do I miss the RGB? A little bit. But again, it's not important to what I do. It's not important to the computer as a whole. It's fun to look at and maybe smile. It was like where people used to take a 10-minute break to go out and smoke. Instead, I would look down to take a 10-minute break to smile at the RGB, because that was my 10-minute break. So now I don't necessarily have that as much as I had before, but I can still look down, I can still look inside, I can still see a little tiny bit, and that's totally fine.
Good.
But again, performance responsiveness, the ability to get what I need to get done in a faster time period. I just wrote an entire 4-page contract in like 10 minutes.
You can type faster?
I don't know, I wouldn't say type faster, but I could put it all together, the images and everything else that I wanted to include.
It was more than...
was much faster.
Okay, good.
And even just the processing from, using the application that I was using to get it to convert to a PDF, 1,000 times faster.
Yeah.
Everything is responsiveness, performance is 1,000 times faster. So I have 0 complaints. But I will say that Apache is one of the most beautiful cases I have ever seen. It's still one of my favorites. And at some point, if we're able to upgrade it,
we'll upgrade it
above and beyond what the ProArt is, that's probably going to be put back into place. Maybe
we might have an upgrade cycle where we'll rotate them.
Which is
right.
fine.
So then, when 16th or 17th gen Intel comes out, we can't take your system down.
The only thing that
but we can take your previous system, upgrade it, and then swap them back out. As long as you want to keep setting them back up.
One thing that Apache is missing is wheels, because the wheels on the ProArt is nice.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And we can put wheels on it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's heavy. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that you like it. And you want to join me over here?
Hi everybody, sorry I'm kind of talking in the background. Yeah, so again, the ProArt is amazing. Performance, responsiveness is perfect. So
Another happy
I
customer.
do kind of miss the Apache, but that's only because it had the fun.
Well, it's right there.
And it's still beautiful. So I love them both. And the ProArt right now, like I said, I was able to get a whole lot of work done in I wouldn't say half the time, probably about quarter to a half of the time.
It's more productive.
So it's way more productive.
But it's 4 or 5 generations newer, and you're using it. If you're just surfing the web and you're not using it much, it's a waste of money. But if you actually use it, wow, you can really feel a difference, and it makes it worth resetting everything up again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Totally worth it. So yes,
all right.
Thank you.
Well, we'll keep following up with you throughout 2025, and you let us know if anything changes.
Of course.
I have a hunch I'll hear about it.
You will. You'll be the first to know about it.
Now, when we go back to the Thermaltake build, a lot of you may not, if you're new to the channel, you may not know what we're talking about. For a while, Thermaltake made a case. Actually, Thermaltake has some pretty interesting things. Let me take you over to Thermaltake's. I'm trying to figure out the right order to do this. Let me first show you. We should have a final video of the, what do they call that? Thermaltake helicopter. I don't know. Thermaltake. Even I can have a hard time finding my own videos. You know, look at what we've done in 2024 alone. Now imagine going back year after year after year and trying to find something specific. It gets a little bit tricky. What was that called? The AHT 600 Thermaltake. Let me search AHT 600, I think. So I think was Apache. But to give you an idea, if you're new here, or if you don't remember, or you were sick that day, you didn't get to see the build process. The case, and I'll just pull up just a random YouTube search here just to share with you. It doesn't have to be my video, or I might be here all day trying to find it. It's a very unique case from Thermaltake. Nobody has anything like it, which again is going to draw me to it. It's different. And as you can see, it looks like the cockpit or the front of an Apache attack helicopter. And then they made a smaller version of it, sort of a Big Daddy and the Junior. And we bought both and we built in both. One's a micro ATX build and one is a full ATX. And that sucker is heavy, very heavy. But also there's no back area here, so hens or small animals can get in there. And it's a dust magnet. So we got very, very dusty, and we're going to have to disassemble it and clean it. And what I wanted to show you, if we go up here to Thermaltake, looking at what they sell today, they make a type of a case which many of you may find attractive. We find it attractive, but we'll never likely build in it because of the amount of space that it takes. But if you go up here to their, let's go products and chassis. Okay, you see your traditional cases here, right? And they don't have anything as extraordinary as the Apache helicopter anymore. We'll see, hopefully in 2025, we'll see more innovations. We just built in the Tower 600, the Bumblebee. But check this out. As we scroll down, let's go to page 2. Actually, let's just go to the Thermaltake eSports. So not only do they have headphones, mice, and keyboards, can't find it there either. Where is it at? They also have gaming chairs, which I was not aware that Thermaltake had their own brand of gaming chair. But here's what surprised me more than anything. We're on the chassis. I need to go back to the chassis. Gaming, mice, keyboard, headsets they make, mouse pads they make. This was all news. This is thermaltakeesports.com, which is a separate channel or separate website from Thermaltake where we were. I didn't even notice it took us somewhere else. But if we go back to, you know, they have the Super Tower and full frame chassis. These are big, heavy chassis that hold a lot of components. Oh, the Apache's still in there? I wonder if they still offer it for sale. You know, for as much case as you got for the money, it was a really good deal. just really want to quickly scroll through here. That Tower 900, we ordered it. I ended up sending it back because it was so big. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to take this out of the box. It's so massive, that Tower 900. I immediately returned it to Amazon. Thank goodness for free returns and free shipping, because that was easily a $200 thing to ship, shipping cost. And I'm still not finding what I'm looking for. Series, motherboard support, lighting effects, built-in fans, radiators. Where is it? Products. Simulator cockpits. There it is. That's what I've been looking for. I did not know Thermaltake sold simulator cockpits. So essentially, you can have your gaming PC and a flight stick for flight simulators versus, say, a driving simulator. And then a keyboard and mouse tray, because as you're leaning back in your simulator chair, you're going to need to bring the keyboard and mouse to you versus leaning forward on a desk. Then you need the triple monitor stand, for example. If you're doing a racing simulator, you got the racing chair, right? You've got your keyboard and mouse stand, but then where do you put the screens? So they have all of this, and you know, nothing money can't fix. And here's like a racing simulator, which is the cockpit. They're using the Thermaltake Tower 300 with a triple monitor stand. They've got a steering wheel and gas and brake pedals. I had no idea Thermaltake made this stuff. Now, as much as I would love to build this and play with it, I have nowhere to put it. This can go next to the exercise equipment. It's that big. And that probably will remain as unused. But anyway, I just was amazed. I had no idea. I stumbled on that and was quite surprised that a company as big as Thermaltake. I've always thought those were more custom-made specialty things. And that simulator even has RGB on the bottom of it. Oh my, what has the world become? Raj D says hello and Happy New Year to all. Hey Raj, thanks for joining us. Happy New Year to you, and thank you for all of your support throughout 2024. We certainly appreciate you. And hope you have a great 2025. Our friend, oh, wait a minute. This has fallen behind. My bad. There's Mitch Morrison joining us in the chat. Good to see Mitch, as always. I don't know why my chat room fell so far behind, but it seems like it's having a very difficult time catching up. So I'm going to refresh my studio page here and see if I can't jump to the end, because I'm seeing old comments. Raymond Versailles has contributed $20 in Super Chat. Right on. Thank you, Raymond. We certainly appreciate your supporting the channel. And Roy Starman with $10 in Super Chat said, best wishes for a new year. I'm interested in your opinion on the Lian Li cases you used near the end of the year. Yeah, we did the Lian Li Vision 011. It's big and heavy, but very easy to work in and beautiful. Everybody who sees it has a comment, usually starting with wow. The little A3 with the wood grain front, same reaction. People are like, that's a PC? Wow, that's really nice. Without the RGB, without all the flash pomp and circumstance, it's elegant. It's more refined. Micro ATX, which is still okay. Mini ITX is so hard to work on Mini ITX, and the cable management's challenging, and the cooling can be challenging because you're often limited with how big of a cooler you can put in, which means in many cases we can't put the best CPU in there. Now there are many ITX cases designed to take liquid coolers, and you're just jamming more and more stuff into a little space, making it even more difficult to work on. So to me, it's not that important to have a small computer unless it's also easy to work on. And for that reason, you don't see many ITX case or many ITX builds on this channel. But to each their own. I mean, if I'm going to go with a mini ITX case, why not just buy a Nook or buy something equivalent? They've had the Nooks out. You know, even the older model Nooks, Generation 11 Nook Extreme is Going to take a full-size GPU if you want it to. This is my backup streaming computer. This is no joke. This is an 11900K made by Intel. This actually, I had one of these that fell off the table onto the floor. Didn't damage it at all. Intel builds these solid. The panel popped off and was a little scuffed. And so what had happened was I had it hooked up on the desk and I had the cables across the floor, and the dog saw a squirrel and went running out the door, pulled on the cable and yanked the whole thing right off onto the floor. It gave me a heart attack because I love this little machine. You see from the depth of it, you can put a full-size GPU in there. I've got a 4-port capture card in there. In fact, now that we're broadcasting in 4K, I can switch that out from a 1080 card to another. This Logitech, sorry, keep wanting to say Logitech. Corsair owns Elgato. And this Elgato 4K capture card is still sold at B&H Photo for $250, which is a fraction of what this $900 card costs. And we want to thank our friend Colin Hilton, who's been with us a very long time and helped us get our first Magewell card at $900. Basically, he paid for it, said, here you go. And we've been going live with multi-camera setup ever since then. We've only recently upgraded to 4K. And again, because of who? Colin Hilton. We hadn't heard from him in a while, and he just suddenly appeared, and he's like, can I do something for the channel? And I'm always very awkward about that. I'm like, well, I mean, if you want to do something, he's, well, what can I do? If I can help, give me an idea of how I can help. I said, well, you know, you're the reason we were able to go live with the 4-camera setup, and I'd love to go live with 4K, but those cards are very expensive. And one of the cards I was looking at was $1,700. And Colin was like, that's a little rich for my blood. And I looked at it and I'm like, hold on, this card won't even work for us. It's only got 2 inputs and 2 outputs. There's only 4 ports, but 2 of the ports are output only. That's not going to work. So imagine my shock when I realized the Elgato 4K capture card with 4 4K inputs, $250. They're very hard to find. People just aren't buying them. So we were able to buy one and test it, and then I went ahead and bought 2 spares. And so I'll put one of the spares in here and one of the spares at Studio A. So we've got backups. Remember that word, backups? It's not just always about software. If I can't broadcast, I can't earn any money, and I can't earn money in broadcasting, and I can't keep my workflow going. Whatever I had that day, I'll have to cancel. Whatever I had scheduled for the next day has to be put off, etc., etc. And you see, I get everything stacks up like dominoes. So backup units that are really small, out of the way. This is way more power than I need. And they're still available for sale today. You go to Amazon and look for a Nook Extreme 11, which is what this is. They're not cheap, but they're built like a tank, and they're very, very easy to work on. And go back a couple of years on the reviews on these. You'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who doesn't like it. So yeah, thank you, Roy Starman, for your $10 super chat. Our friend Mark Gaines, a super shout out to Mark. So many times I've ended the videos thanking people and forget to mention him, and I feel so terrible. I do that with Charlie Purdy and Paul Gray. I have to, when people are so generous, just over and over again, and then I fail to mention their name at the end of the broadcast. Like, I'll acknowledge it when it happens. But then, for whatever reason, it slips my mind. I'm going to work on that. In fact, maybe I'll have Mara put something together where she can keep a list, because I want to give people credit and say personally thank you to each and every one of you. And it's not enough to say it once. I'll say it when you do it. I'll say it at the end. And then because it's all unscripted and I just can't remember, then I end the broadcast and then I'm like, darn it. I am so sorry if I've ever left your name out for any of you. Please know I'm not doing it on purpose. And feel free to remind me. There's nothing wrong. If you want that shout out and you remind me, that's how you're going to train me to remember you through repetition. Can't thank you guys enough. Scroll up here a little bit. With regards to the Lian Li cases, I've liked every one of them. And by every one of them, the last 2 we worked on, because I think we only worked on 2 this year. And just recently at the end of the year, the 011 Vision, big and heavy, beautiful. As far as aquarium cases go, I'm done with them. I've seen enough. I think the Lian Li is the one to beat, personally. There's other attractive cases out there that are even bigger, heavier, and more expensive. I think for the elegance of it, the fact that the glass meets together on the top, the front, and the side without a metal frame makes the Lian Li unique and elegant in a way that nobody else really is. I'm not a fan of the height cases. I think they're too big. Nothing about their build quality. I don't know. I've never seen one in person, but they're not attractive to me for size to move them around. And it's just another dual chamber aquarium case. Okay, been there, done that. Lian Li was the icing on the cake, and I think that's the one to beat. So if I have my choice out of any of them, the Lian Li is my favorite. That little A3 with the wooden front, very elegant, very appropriate for a library. You know, if you have a house that has a library or a place of business. Again, easy to work on, well-built materials, prices very attractive for that little unit. I think they're 80 or 90 bucks. Yeah, I like both. Prior to that, we had a case sent to us that was requested for review, and a viewer that joined us from Vegas bought the case and sent it to us. Like, ordered it on Amazon and had it shipped to us. And it sat in the garage where I forgot about it. I'm trying to remember the name of that. And then what we ended up doing, we built a really nice system in it after it had been sitting for about a year. Once I realized, oh my gosh, I forgot about this. And so what I did to return, because this viewer had also contributed to other things in the past, and I wanted to do something for them, and Vegas isn't that far away from Phoenix. So I took the whole finished machine, put it back in the box, and I shipped it to him. He didn't ask for it. He didn't know it was coming. And I said, this is your case. He obviously liked it because that's why he wanted me to review it. Only now it's got a motherboard, CPU, RAM, storage, everything, which he more or less paid for anyway through his support and contributions, but he never asked for anything. And he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and we got it out, right? So otherwise it'd probably still be sitting here. But it was a much better case, and had I known that, I probably wouldn't have put it in the garage. I don't think I intended for it to be in the garage that long, but that was back at Studio A. That was years ago. And I think that was the last time I worked on a Lian Li case. So we've been out of touch with Lian Li for a while. Not that we've ever been in touch with Lian Li directly, but some of the cases we've worked on that are crowdsourced cases, like the Dan case or the N case, are contracted out for Lian Li to manufacture. The Train PC is Lian Li, but that's 10 years ago. So we've never had any issue with quality or design. Lian Li's always been innovative in that they're not copying other people, and the case materials are always really good, and they're also not the cheapest, but they're also not the most expensive. So I feel pretty confident you could, from what I know with recent experience, whatever Lian Li's putting their name on, as far as computer cases and coolers go, and even power supplies, I think it's a safe bet. At least from the limited experience I have with their products. But they've always been consistent for years and years and years. So I assume, you know what they say about that, but I assume they see that same care and quality in all their products as they have over all these years. I mean, can you name any other case I've had for 10 years other than the Train PC? Corsair 200R? They're few and far between, and that says something about the brand, I think. Speaks for itself. Gregory Howard says it wasn't the Johnsbow build that he bought. The coffee machine was the Sagotep Slath. That's right. Because the Johnsbow TK1 and the Sagotep Slath, they look very similar. One's a little bigger than the other one. Yeah, that's a very nice case. And we're so glad that, you know, Gregory appreciates it and that he's happy with it, that he's never had any problems, everything works great, and it looks good at the same time. Tony in the chat wants to know if the hot dogs are better in the USA than what they are in England. I've never had sausage in England. I don't know. I mean, you'd think the authentic hot dog would be German, bratwurst, but it's a hot dog. We can put enough preservatives and artificial flavors in it to make you like it. Like, it's not going to be healthy or good for you, but we can definitely, American manufacturing can put enough sugar, salt, and fat in there until you're very happy with it. If that's what sells a hot dog, they'll put it in there. I don't know in England. I don't know how they compare. And maybe somebody who's been to both can comment on that. I don't recall ever going to a fine dining restaurant anywhere in the world where hot dogs are on the menu regardless, but what do I know? People are not generally eating them because it's good for you or expensive. It's because it's quick, it's cheap, and it tastes good. Something fast, you know, served at sporting arenas and concession stands. You can hold it in your hand. You don't need silverware. You don't have plates to clean or put away. Your hands are the plate. It's a convenience food that's not intended to do anything other than provide you with sustenance. And are they better than they are? I don't think we're eating them because they're delicious. We're eating them because they're good. And they're mostly because they're convenient. Secondly, because they're good. But I don't think it's the other way around. But I can only speak for myself. It's a funny question, though. Kurt Schlegel says a 7-Eleven hot dog. Yeah, if it's been on those heat rollers for a good 48 to 72 hours, nice aged hot dog that can give you dysentery. The Simpsons have made a lot of jokes about that. I don't eat those. I'm not risking. I don't know how long that hot dog's been out on those rollers. Are those fresh? Yeah, I just put them on last week. You know that's meat, right? But then that's what they say about beef jerky and beef sticks. That's not refrigerated, and that's meat. We put enough preservatives in it, you'll be fine. Archie says, how about a Costco hot dog? Yeah, those are not good. You know what, $1.50 for a hot dog and a soda, it's cheap. I imagine that you can have an acquired taste for it. But yeah, that's, again, it's just cheap and convenient. Model Citizen said, bratwurst is a much better quality than a hot dog anywhere. Yeah, that's probably true. So going back, finally, did we cover all the videos from last year? Let me pull up browser again. Let's take one final look through here. That's not the channel, not the capture I want. Hold on a second. I got to change that input over to Edge. I do this so I don't pull up the wrong window, and I end up pulling up the wrong window anyway. Okay, that's better. We did a live laptop battery replacement, and I've got another one of those coming up. I've got a customer who reached out with a Dell XPS 139370. That laptop's about 6 or 7 years old on its original battery, and it's randomly shutting down even when it's plugged in. He's very convinced it's a battery. He wants to replace the battery. He does not want my diagnostic. He just wants me to do the work. So I told him, go ahead and order the battery directly from Dell. Don't order a cheap knockoff. Order the battery from Dell. It'll take about a week. By the time he gets the battery, we'll be back from our break, and we'll kick off the new year with a how-to video on upgrading a Dell XPS 139370 battery. Hopefully that will fix his issue. It's about an $80 battery direct from Dell. The cheap knockoffs on Amazon sell for half the price, but they could catch your house on fire, or they could be the gentleman could be right back in the same place of needing a battery in a year. So they generally don't have the same lifespan. So if he wants to keep this laptop a while and he doesn't want to roll the dice on it, let's do it once. Let's get the genuine battery, because batteries can be dangerous. And there's a lot of dangerous batteries out there from unknown, typically Chinese manufacturers that, you know, there's really no recourse you're going to have other than your homeowner's insurance, or it ruins the laptop entirely and you're just going to have to buy a new laptop because it'd be more expensive to fix it from the damage a cheap battery could potentially cause. And while that's true of any battery, the odds are a lot better on a factory battery that you're going to have a good battery the right time that won't cause damage and will, you know, have a similar life expectancy as the one you replaced without, you know, absolutely being 100% sure. We're going to put the odds in our favor. The gentleman agrees, sees the value of that, has ordered the battery, and he'll let us know when he gets it. And then from there, we'll collect the laptop and the battery from the gentleman, and we'll make a video out of it. And we'll see if that fixes the problem. He loves the laptop, so he wants to keep it. The Minis Forum, the Atom Man G7 Ti is our newest Minis Forum. And we had to buy this one, and it's about $13, $14, what we pay? $1,550, I think, with RAM and SSD. We could have bought bare bones. Our friend Buster, Peter Lycock, also bought one. He got his way before we got ours. I guess he loves it. I haven't heard him say anything bad about it. We upgraded Mitch's black and white, what we call Stormtrooper computer, and he's been very happy with that. We did the Sama. This was the last time you ever saw the Sama case. This was like a final comparing two different cases, one from Thermaltake, one from Sama. We bought both of them with your funding, right? When you guys support the channel, this is where the money's going. And then we sold off the Sama case for half of what we paid for it, but that was better than putting it in a trash can or spending $100 to ship it, which was more than it cost to buy it with free shipping from Amazon or Newegg, wherever we got it from. Then we did, of course, the ProArt to the Z390. There's the, what's it called? A3. The A3 with the wooden front on it. That's the Lian Li case I was talking about. There's the Thermaltake Bumblebee case that we did really recently. We also saw new NVMe drives from Orico, a company that we've seen here making primarily PC peripherals like external NVMe enclosures and USB adapters and such. So to see them in the NVMe space, their NVMe drive seems fine. Good performance, good capacity, cheaper price. I haven't used them more than once, but I like what I see. We're out of the gate good. Time will tell, but yeah, I'd absolutely consider them for something that I was trying to keep budget low on, but didn't want to give up performance. Stay away from the big name brands to spend less and effectively get the same performance and warranty. The live mixer build. Wow, this thing has 23 USB ports on this motherboard. Again, another Z890 build. We've done 3 of them so far. 2 from ASRock and 1 from Asus. 2 Intel Ultra 7s, 1 Intel Ultra 9. Love it. Absolutely love it. We haven't figured out what case we're going to put that in yet. We've got our Lego PC. This was so much fun. We haven't finished it yet. And also the little mini refrigerator. Mara's Christmas gift for me, which is perfect for me. It keeps my drinks cold, and it's a 1/6 scale of an actual Coca-Cola vending machine with all the little stickers, even little coins and little dollar bills. It even dispenses little cans. It really works. From our friends over at, well, I shouldn't say our friends. We don't. I bought it, or Mara bought it for a Christmas gift from New Wave Toys. It wasn't given to us for review or anything. I just genuinely wanted it, and it's really cute. It's really cool. So with my mini arcades and my mini, everything's to 1/6 scale to every detail. Both are fully functional. The mini arcades are fully functional, exactly the way the arcade worked. They're not knockoffs. They are legitimate replicas in every way, just scaled to 1/6 size. Same with the Coca-Cola vending machine. Now the Lego PC doesn't work. It's just a fun little thing to put together. And we have 7 different bags. This was just bag 1. It took 2 hours to get through the series of bags that say 1 on them. And then we've got to do bags labeled 2, 3, all the way up to 7. And then we'll have this little gaming tower PC made of, well, I can't say they're Legos. They're called bricks. Lego's a trademark name and probably will tell me I'm not allowed to say that. So we're not allowed to call that Lego. I made this video just a few days ago to show that you can spend very little money and have a very high performing computer and have very easy cable management and have an 8 to 10 year computer build that will be very reliable, very responsive, very quiet, for that entire 8 to 10 years without the cable management nightmare of RGB or the additional software for RGB. And if you cut all the RGB out of it, you can spend nearly half the amount of money you see other YouTube content creators making builds where this thing is just as fast, if not faster, and will last longer than what they're doing. It'll be more trouble-free because there's less to go wrong. And it's what we call the practical answer, right? If you're running a business, you want 15 of these. As a home user, if you really want your money to go as far as possible, skip all the RGB, stick to the basics, and let the computer speak for itself. This is a bargain of a system right now. We finished up the ProArt build, and of course, this is today's video right now that we're airing. And I don't know how many videos that is, but that's a lot of video. And of course, that doesn't include, this doesn't have any of our members only videos. So for the last 52 weeks, we've made a members only video, and those are not available publicly. That is a benefit of membership as a thank you for you supporting us so we can continue to be independent. The 790S7, by the way, well, that was Mitch while he was on vacation right there. The 790S7 from Minisforum is absolutely one of my favorite builds of 2024, or favorite mini PCs, I should say. Now, if you missed it, I have done a disservice to Minisforum by not spending more time on the 790S7. This computer looks more like a small form factor than a mini PC. And I'm going to step off camera here so I can go over to the shelf where it sits. And if you missed this video, I am telling you, this thing is a powerhouse. This has a 4060 NVIDIA low-profile GPU in it. Now, normally, that's something you have to add yourself, okay? The Minisforum for review units, they stuck these 4060s in here. And that right there is your 2-slot 4060 low-profile GPU. Not a laptop 4060, a desktop 4060. It is just low profile. Look at all the I/O we have back here. But as far as mini PCs go, it's pretty sizable. It's meant to sit upright just like this. There's venting on this side, so you wouldn't want to lay it on the desk. There's no rubber feet anywhere but on the bottom, so this is meant to go vertical. I suppose you could lay it down this way as well, you know, the writing and the ports being at the bottom. And I suppose you could put a little tiny monitor on it too. But the rubber feet are there on the bottom. And the reason I'm a little regretful on this unit is I feel like the review was too quick. And what an amazing and unique little box this is. You typically see this kind of design coming out of Dell, and they're very expensive. By comparison, the Minisforum is a bargain. Not a lot of innovation in that way, right? This kind of a case is just a rectangular box, nothing really special in that manner, but it just occurred to me, I don't know where our TerraMaster video is, but TerraMaster also introduced us to the all NVMe SSD NAS. That's, was it 8 NVMe drives that took? And that's another one I'm a bit remorseful that we didn't have more time to dive in deeper with the apps that it has. And I'm going to step over here because both of these things are on their own shelf together for me to get back to and pursue a little further. And let me just grab that. And it's super tiny. Like, you're going to see this, you're going to say there's no way. Check this thing out. You've seen how big the Synologies, they're about shoebox size, right? This NAS, look how tiny this is. Really quiet, all NVMe, no mechanical drives. But NVMe is an expensive way for mass storage, okay? It's, what do we have in here? I think we have 8 2-terabyte drives. And if a 2-terabyte drive from, let's say, Beijing or, you know, Team Group, you're probably looking at $130 a drive. That's going to give us a total of, 2 times 8, 16, minus the overhead for RAID 5, around 14 terabytes of storage, which you can do one mechanical drive of 14 terabytes for like $200, 250, something like that. And then, of course, you got 4 terabyte drives. Those are going to run you on the low end probably close to $300, and you're going to need 8 of them, so you're at $2,100. And then 8 times 4, 8, 16, 24, 32 terabytes. Minus the overhead, you're probably around 20, 26, 28 terabytes of storage after the overhead for RAID redundancy. This can get really expensive. And then you have the unit itself is $800. So by comparison, doing an old school, even if it's TerraMaster, QNAP, Synology, mechanical drive NAS is still much cheaper, but consumes more power, it's louder. Those bigger mechanical drives are very chattery. They make all of these noises, and the bigger the capacity, the louder they seem to get. It bothers some people. The Synology has no sound dampening, so you just hear it all. If the drive is asleep and you wake it up, you hear the whole drive reset. I know if Mara's accessing the NAS from upstairs, if it's asleep, I hear it wake up, and I know I didn't wake it up. And oh, Mara must be doing something on the NAS, and sure enough, that's exactly what's happening. So in that way, it's kind of neat to know something's going on, but at the same time, you can't beat the low-profile nature of this. And there's 2 fans on the bottom. This is also meant to be set upright. You've got a couple of USB ports on the back, Ethernet, and then you've got all the apps you can download, no differently than a Synology, QNAP, or other NAS, even from TerraMaster. They're all the same, similar apps like for Plex, or auto backing up your computers, or having your files available in your own private cloud, so you're not paying for OneDrive or Google Drive. This is all yours under your control. And the idea that it's really small and uses the ultra quiet, low power NVMe drives, it makes it expensive, but also very, very fast. And less power usage to power it, less desktop real estate to put it somewhere. So to each their own, right? Where you see value or you don't see value, I can't speak for you. I barely know you. And even if I knew you, I'm probably not paying as much attention as our friend Buster is, because boy, does he pay attention. Holy cow. Anyway, this is where we were on 11th gen, right? And the main reason this is so long is its intention was for gamers to put a full-size graphics card in here. But they do have low-profile cards now. And of course, when it comes to NASs, the shoebox design has always been and always will be a design. This is where the future's going. And as NVMe drives get larger in capacity, we're already going to see 16 terabyte NVMe drives this year. They're also going to cost about $3,000 a piece. And if we needed 8 of those, never mind. Never mind, I could buy a Tesla. But that's not the point. The point is we're getting there. And of course, if you want to be first, you're going to pay the most. And if you want performance over capacity, or if you want capacity over price, performance over price, or capacity over performance, or if you want something smaller, quieter, less power consumption, there's all these different things to choose from. And all I'm trying to do on my channel is introduce you to them. I'm not trying to convince you to buy it. I might warn you against it if I find something about it I don't like. But again, if I thought I wasn't going to like it, I wouldn't have bothered reviewing it. And when we do this live and unscripted, it is what it is. I have no idea what's going to happen anymore. You do. I can't control it in editing. So we're looking forward to more of the same in 2025, just different styles of products. Maybe not as many mini PCs, maybe not as many computer builds. We're still going to do that. But I'm also hoping to explore other avenues of tech along with what suggestions you guys have. So even if I don't necessarily agree on your suggestion that it's a good fit for the channel, I still appreciate your suggestion, all right? So please don't let that be hesitation. We appreciate all the ideas, and sometimes it's a little bit of this idea and a little bit of that idea, and then that forms like, oh, that's a great idea. And that's how this can all happen. And it's for your input and suggestions that we can let that evolve into something. And that's ultimately what we're out for. I guess we're going to wrap it up here. So let me just take a quick look one last time in the chat, because this is our last video of 2024. Expect the channel to grow a little quiet as we take a break. A long needed 2.25 years, 2.5 years since we've taken a serious break. And the break will just be for a week. So I don't want you to worry and, oh, what happened to Carey? I'm still here. The channel isn't going away. I didn't take your membership money and super chats and run off to Mexico to live on the beach sipping Mai Tais. Not yet. No, we're just going to take a little break, and then we'll come back hopefully refreshed, renewed, and ready to kick off 2025 once all the CES stuff is behind. That's happened. Let the other channels focus on that. You guys can focus on that too. And then we'll come back and pick up, and very much looking forward to 2025 and sharing it with you. Thank you for being a part of 2024. We hope you'll stay with us in 2025. I hope you have a great new year. Sincerely. And we sure do look forward to hanging out with you guys next year. Bill Sony says we want to take a break. You might feel obligated to watch every video. I need to give you guys a break, huh? Thank you, Bill. Let me just scroll up. AC's drafting there, saying hello. Just seeing what I've missed in the chat. Again, a super shout out and thanks to our friend Paul Gray there in Australia for all of the support. Charlie Purdy, Rob Foster. You know, we had a surprise contribution, very generous contribution from Jesse Kirk, which was, he sent a very, very nice email to us. And by the way, if you guys want to email us, even when we're on break, you're certainly welcome to reach out. Our email address, I'm going to put it right here on the screen. Do be sure you spell it correctly. Otherwise, we may not get it. Type it slow, double check it before you hit the send button. And well, we might have a delay in getting back with you. We'll usually respond within 24 hours regardless. And that's how you can reach us. Paul says, good day. Good day, Paul. Bill says, how about an HP printer 2025 review? Maybe. We have a couple of printers here, and I can't say either one of us are a fan of either printer. One's an HP and one's a company called Pantom. And I bought the Pantom for the experience of what is a Pantom. And yeah, it's a Paintum is what it is. But maybe. I mean, especially if we have a need for a printer, we'll certainly share the unboxing with you. We'll run into the same problem. Printers are pretty big, and if we don't have anywhere to put it, and there's so many printers, where do you start? And there's always new ones coming out. However, if that comes up, I have nothing opposed to it. And I appreciate the suggestion, of course. Mark Gaines with a $20 super chat I missed earlier says, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the new HDMI 2.2 protocol. Well, I'll tell you what, let me do a quick Google search on that because I think I read something about this, but I can't remember. What were the highlights? The new standard is expected to deliver higher bandwidth and resolutions. Well, that's why we go to DisplayPort, right, is for higher resolution and bandwidth. The HDMI Forum, which developed this widely adopted standard for video and audio translation, has confirmed a press conference for January 6th. So I guess HDMI 2.2 is a rumor at this point, and they're teasing a little bit for what's coming to be announced at CES. I will tell you what I think about it when it's actually released. I do see there's some news articles published like last week about this. You guys are ahead of me on this news. I likely wouldn't be aware of this until next week. And it is supposedly true information. But so HDMI 2.1 is where we're at. And it supports 8K at 60 hertz, 4K at 120. This is all gamer stuff. Like regular home users hooking up their TVs don't need to worry about this stuff. 2.2 says, we know HDMI Forum will be announcing a new cable for HDMI 2.2, but the organization has not provided the details. Chances are fairly good the new cable will carry over the current HDMI connector. Oh, is it going to be a different connector? There's going to be a new reversible design so HDMI can plug in either direct, like USB-C does. Oh, I'll like that. Who wouldn't? We can assume that HDMI 2.2 cables will be able to handle bandwidth significantly higher than the 48 gigabits per second offered by today's ultra high-speed HDMI. This is for gamers. So if you're a gamer, this probably is of interest to you. If you're not a gamer and you're not into 144 hertz refresh rates at 8K, you probably don't much, it doesn't much matter. This has created some confusion with people reaching out to us worried about, TV resolutions. But you'll notice a TV never has a DisplayPort connector on it. Computer monitors do. TVs do not. TVs are always HDMI. Now look, there may be a TV out there. I've never seen one that has DisplayPort. DisplayPort, and feel free to correct me if there's information I don't have. It's for gamers and for businesses. If you're hooking your computer up to a regular monitor, HDMI is all you need. If you got one of them giant monitors, you're probably going to need DisplayPort. Depends how much data transfer you're doing. And if you have a really high refresh rate, then the amount of data gets doubled and tripled, depending on the refresh rate. That is typically something that is a desire of gamers or game developers. For the regular folks, just hook it up to televisions. HDMI is HDMI. So that's my opinion on it from what I know so far. And of course, it's subject to change. If I get information I don't have right now, that could change my opinion. But early on, that would be my, I don't care. Like I look forward to a connector that's like a USB-C. If it might even just be a USB-C connector, it might be the same one. You just plug it in either way. I think we can all agree that's much better than the regular USB connectors that only go on one way, but for some reason take 3 different attempts. Your first attempt doesn't work. You flip it around, that doesn't work. You flip it back the way you had it the first time, and for some reason it works. USB-C works regardless every single time. So we certainly love the Type-C connector. And anything that wants to use that. Laptop chargers, toothbrushes that charge that way, electric shavers that charge that way. You bring one charger with you on vacation and you can charge everything with that one charger. It makes life so much easier. And then you plug it in the first time, it's always the right way. And if that's the direction of HDMI, welcome aboard. But how many times do I need to plug in a cable? I mean, here on a live video, I do it all the time. But in an entertainment center, for most people, it's a one-time thing and you don't unplug it again for years. But I appreciate the contribution as always. And your question, Mark, thank you for asking. I think I need to look at the phone real quick before we end up saying goodbye here. I think I've had that email address on screen long enough, right? I took it off. Good. Just did that and didn't even realize. Reopen says, Happy New Year to you and the gang. How about you show how you can back up your smartphone to that TerraMaster or any NAS if possible. NAS showcases are some of my favorite videos. It's not always the same. So there's so many different smartphones, whether it's an iPhone or if it's an Android or if it's a Google Plus or if it's or sorry, a Google phone or a OnePlus. There's so many that if we show it, then the question is, do we have to show it one way for Android, one way for iPhone? And we don't do anything with Mac here. Most phones will back up automatically to, like if you've got Android, it back up automatically to Google Drive with your Google account. If you've got an iPhone, they usually back up automatically to Apple's. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But there are, in fact, we were sent a USB device specifically intended to magnetically connect to the back of your phone with a USB-C cable made by MoveSpeed for the sole purpose of backing up your phone. Most people with smartphones, even if you show them how to do this, they're not going to do it. They're going to rely on the auto backup, the photo backup, the contacts backup of the service provider, not of the service provider, but of the like Android platform or of the iOS platform. So while it can be done, and it's not I'm not saying it's a bad idea, the variety of phones and how it's done is not universal. So if we show it, we might end up creating a lot more confusion, and it may be completely redundant and unnecessary, given that a lot of this can be done right over the air on your data plan, and that's likely the future of things versus an old school, let me do it myself kind of deal. That's still happening, but I think as we move forward in 2025, by the time we get to 2028, I can't imagine anything being backed up other than ultra critical sensitive data. Again, let me chew on that. Let me think about it, because I don't even know how to do that. I'd have to learn. And there is features in the TerraMaster, Synology, and QNAP and ASUS store specifically for the purpose of backing up the phone, but I found it to be redundant to a point of unnecessary. Not that you could ever have too many copies of your data, but sometimes, in my opinion, we overthink it. But also, I've never done it because I've never needed to. And so I'm speaking from a place of ignorance, right? I don't have the experience. And I'm sort of, I'm doing what I complain people do, which is they talk themselves out of something without ever having done it. So maybe we should do it just for the experience without recommending it one way or the other, but just to give an example that it's an option and that it may be different for your phone. So that's an interesting idea, but let me chew on that. Appreciate it. Bob Claiborne became a supporter. Welcome, Bob. Good to see Bob Claiborne, and a $2 super chat. Right on. And then, of course, we have Barry Klein. A thank you to Barry for his support and his humor. He's a funny guy and very generous as well. So thank you, Barry. Phil Stodd is another one. I owe a thank you to. And Bob Claiborne, I owe a thank you to. Well, to each and every one of you. You know, Mats Olaf, of course, our friends Oystein, Frankie B, Paul Gray, the Brat Pack. No, they're not the Brat Pack. You know, Buster. These are the the godfathers of the channel. I don't know what we got to come up with a name, but extraordinary generosity and support from so many of you, and we can't thank you enough. We had no idea 2024 would present the challenges of the studio move. We had no idea at this time in 2023 that that was going to happen just 6 months later. It's just happened. Hopefully, we continue on track without any more surprises, or at least major surprises that have that kind of impact. And I hope I will get around to actually getting the studio set up better. I have made a little bit of progress. I haven't ignored it, but I haven't done as much as I was hoping, and it's a little overwhelming, but we'll get to it. And of course, we love hearing from you. If you want to reach out to us at any time, the email address is in our About section of our YouTube channel. And while we're away, that's a good time for you to get caught up in our past videos you might have missed, because we did a lot of them. That's a lot for one guy to do, with the help from Mara and of course Mitch. Mitch has been very helpful. It's so great to have him on the channel, to have his company and his camaraderie, and we'll look forward to doing some more videos with Mitch next year. In fact, I understand he has another older computer that could use an upgrade. And that's a great excuse for some content. So we'll look into that in 2025. And our friend Marvin Jameson. Remember Marvin? He's a 3-time Purple Heart recipient, military veteran. He loves gaming. And he, in my opinion, he got taken to the cleaners by one of those gaming system sellers that built a custom computer, and it was just crap. And they in my opinion, they way overcharged him. And we set him right by essentially building him a whole new machine from the ground up. And I don't know if we reused any of his parts. We might have, but mostly it was all new. And he loves that machine. And I said, Marvin, you know, it's been a couple of years. We should upgrade just because you're a gamer, and, you know, why not? You don't want to wait too long, but you also don't want to do it too soon. And he said, well, what if we did that after the new year? This was like back in the summertime. And I said, yeah, I think that'll be great. We'll be moved into the new studio. We'll just take your computer we built. We'll pull the motherboard out of it. We'll put a new board in with a new processor, a new RAM. We'll go from DDR4 to DDR5, probably from Gen 3 SSD to Gen 4, maybe twice the capacity, depending on what he's got now. We can carry over his video card, carry over his power supply and case, get it nice and dusted out and cleaned up, and give it back to him. And he said, count me in. So we'll follow up with Marvin in 2025, and probably sometime in late January or throughout February, we'll reach out and get that done for him. He's given a lot to this country. He sacrificed a lot. And above all, he's a super cool guy. And if we can do something for him for all he's done for our country, on top of the fact that he's just a cool, nice guy, makes me want to do something for him. And well, he's probably planning to pay for it. We're not going to ask him for any money. We're going to provide it to him, because it's the right thing to do. And there's so many people that are deserving of it that I'm not aware of. He is one of the few that I feel absolutely no question and no doubt, this is somebody I want to do something for, and I know he's going to appreciate it, and I know he's going to love it. So yeah, I'm very, if you can't tell, I really am looking forward to that. It makes me feel good to know that my work is appreciated and it's going to somebody deserving. You're all deserving, don't get me wrong. But when I get to meet you and really get to know you, the more I want to, you know, I have a better understanding of what your values are. And if I'm like, oh, I know so-and-so is going to love this, I'm kind of doing that for me, aren't I? It's a little selfish. So anyway, that'll be coming up. Now, I don't know what's going on past February. I can't see March or beyond. I don't know, but I do know I'll be busy doing something here on camera, and I hope you'll join us for it. It's just about 4 o'clock in the afternoon here in Phoenix. I think we'll wrap today's video up, as we were a little over an hour into this. Wow, there's a lot of super chat contributions, more so than normal today, and I thank each and every one of you for that. And I did want to check the phone about 45 minutes ago, and I got distracted. So let me just let me check this real quick and see if we've missed anything from you guys. Let's see. So that's advertising, and some advertising. Okay, so I don't think I've missed anything from you guys. Good. So I feel bad when I forget to check, and then I remember to check, and there's nothing there. So what can I do? The end of the year, I don't know. I've seen a lot of like privacy update notices in my email from services I haven't used in forever, and I guess by law they send them to you, and there's no unsubscribe. Nothing a click of the mouse won't fix. But nonetheless, I thank each and every one of you for, again, your friendship in this amazing community. Reopen Uramian, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing your name, contributes $20.25 Canadian. He says, oh, for 2025, I see what you did there. He goes, I'm contributing 2025 for 2025 as a 2.5-year viewer. I don't say much, but I'm looking at you. Well, that's not creepy. I'm watching you. Well, thank you so much, Rupin. And We certainly look forward to enjoying your company in 2025 here in the live chat. Paul Gray with another generous super chat contribution, 20 Australian dollars, says, enjoy your break. Thank you, Paul. Matt Zoloff says it's 2 minutes before midnight in Sweden, right? In Sweden. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to each and all of you. Let's hope for a happy and healthy, prosperous 2025 for us all. And I'm going to look forward to hanging out with each of you in 2025 throughout the entire year on every video forever and ever. Thanks to Mara for all of her help. Thanks to our friends at Acronis and Roboform and SCD Keys for their support throughout the year and making sure you guys always get discounts that you're not going to find anywhere else throughout the year. Sure, discounts come and go. Our discounts stay in the chat so you don't have to, or in the video notes, so you don't have to worry about buying it while it's on sale. It's there when you're ready, so you don't have to worry about, I better get it now. You get it when you're ready, all right? And we're going to try and keep those relationships open with these companies so we can continue to, keep the pressure off from the buy it now. But just know that you have a trustworthy source with a discounted price that you can go to, that I personally back up 100% with that discount available to you when you're ready to buy. This is part of the uniqueness of this channel, is to look after our community in the way that our community also looks after us. And we can't thank you enough, honestly. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Happy New Year. Goodbye, 2024. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out, 2024. And welcome in 2025. Are we going to have some fun? I think so. Stay tuned and find out. I'll see you all next week. Until then, bye for now.